Still don't have an intro, but what we have today is a podcast with a guy who I've been on their podcast already, GGpoker. A lot of you guys will probably know him. He is a YouTuber. He has his own academy. He's now a GGpoker ambassador. He does a lot of stuff. He's very active in the poker scene. He plays relatively high stakes poker. He plays very high stakes live. Very good guy, very popular guy. He's kind of exploded over the last 12 months. I just want to do a little caveat is that I've been really ill for the last week. You can probably see that I'm dying here. I really wanted to keep making the content. This is not a cry for help or a cry for sympathy or anything. So don't worry about in the comments wishing me the best of luck or to get better or whatever. Just you don't need to point out that I'm feeling terrible or that I look like I'm going to die. I'm very, very aware of that, but I wanted to make sure that I got some more content out for you guys because I thought that was important. So yeah, I'm half dead in this podcast. So fortunately, it's the other guy talking rather than me. I'm the one asking questions this time, which is very good for me. So yeah, hopefully I'm gonna be better. My plan was to do 3 or 4 videos this week and like really start smashing the content out, but I'm just too ill to do it. I've had a lot of messages that I need to get back to people from. So if you have wrote to me about different projects and whatever, I've just been half dead, to be honest. Anyway, I really hope you do enjoy the podcast. We're going to cover a lot of different things. We're going to talk about GG. We're going to talk about Dan Bilzerian. We're going to talk about the BBC Academy. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff. Ginge has so much interesting stuff to speak about. So, going to end this now, but I really hope you enjoy the podcast. If you do enjoy the podcast, let me know in the comments, and I will try to do more of them. Let me know who you would like me to podcast next. I'm quite friendly with a lot of people in the industry. So if you request someone and it's very popular, hopefully I can make sure to get it done for you guys. So I'm going to end this now and then I'm going to go sleep for about 4 days and hopefully be better by Sunday. All right, here we are. Here we are. Whenever, whenever I see you with this hat, Ginge, honestly, it cracks me up. I'm not sure why. Do you think there's something with YouTubers? I feel like people latch on to things straight away, and I feel like with you, something people latch on to straight away is Gotham. I feel like Gotham somehow exploded over. Was this intentional from your side or not?
No, so I kind of did it naturally, and then people kind of latched onto it, and then I probably encouraged me more naturally to do it. So it wasn't something that I was forcing, but maybe I just like it. Just I was doing it naturally, and it's just like, oh, that's a fun thing to do, and then everyone's enjoying it, and you kind of just embrace it a little bit, I guess.
Yeah. Was there anything like that you did at the start of your poker career with your friends? Like I always remember with my friends, we always had little things we'd always say, usually it came actually from other people. That's why I see a lot of people now using your Gotham for themselves. Whereas like we used to say things from like Helmuth or Matasau
Yeah,
or like the,
yeah,
the kiddie game down the street. Was there anything you used to say when you were slightly younger or?
yeah, definitely. I can't remember them off the top of my head now, but like the poker language just gets mixed up with everyone because you'll end up watching something like 2 months, 2 million, and then you'll just see how they describe people, and and then you start describing people in the same way. I can't even think of them because there'll be ones that I'll have had and then didn't like, or I've like tried, like when like I don't really remember the word, the word sick. We'd use that to describe something that's good. Like I remember when people first started saying, "Oh, that's sick," and I'm like, "That's a ridiculous word to use. Why would you use that?" And then all of a sudden, you're almost using it sarcastically. Oh yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I just use it normally now and describe things as sick.
Did that come from UK or from US, do you think? I think we didn't say it when I was at school. Like when I was like 15, 16, we I know it's a long time ago, but we didn't really used to say it at school, I don't think. It was more like university, post-university where we started speaking of sick, yeah.
For me, I'm 29. I don't know the age difference between me and you, but it was
32.
definitely when I was at school when people started saying it. I was like, I'm
Okay.
not doing that. Here I am 10 years later using it like it's a normal vocab.
And what do you think about people? Are you like happy when people use your kind of vocab, or do you wish you got like a shout out when they said it? Or because I feel like a lot of people are saying got him now, and it's almost becoming kind of like not the new sick, obviously, because it's a different word, but it's a word which people do. Like if I'm even speaking to friends, they will say it, or if I'm watching like a stream of like a friend who's just streaming his play for me, he will say it as well, and I'm like, that's pretty sick that you guys are saying got him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. Like, I'm trying to convince Gigi to give me like the little emoji that comes out and does the Ginge got him on the site,
That
and
was
I'm gonna
sick.
hope. at some point I'm going to be like, how many retweets to get Gingy Zone? Got him on GGpoker, but I don't know when the right moment for that is. I don't just want to say that and get 5 retweets and then just like that button.
No,
But
I'm sure you get a lot more.
well, hopefully. But I haven't told you a story about where it came from.
No, I don't think so.
So Got Him has kind of been around for longer than I was using it. I feel like I just kind of drew attention to it. Like people were definitely saying it. I got it from somebody else, but I was playing in a live game in Macau, and it was a £30, £60 game. There's me, an aggressive French reg who everyone kind of knew, and a older American guy who was kind of shot taking the 30-60 game, short stacked. And there was a pot where all the money gets in pre. I think I raised jacks, aggro French guy 3 bets, half stack jams, I rejam jacks, and then the French guy tank calls off for 100 bigs. And it's like pretty standard, like jacks, ace king in the spot. And there was a guy that I just met in Macau, and it was in one of these situations where like I don't know if you find this in poker, where like he was like still coming up with the ranks and he's trying to make friends with some of like the sort of the more high stakes players and be really friendly. And I really liked him, really nice guy. I didn't know him that well at the time. He just happened to be walking past the table, and he's obviously rooting for me in his hand a little bit, standing behind the French guy, and then just sees this like 30k pot happen. All the money goes in. I think it was a straddle game, so that's why it was 30k. So and then I hold my jacks against ace king and ace king, it turns out, and he's just standing there behind him, excited for me to win the hand, and goes, got him. And then the French guy just turns around, like almost like the poltergeist, this like 180, just looks at this guy and goes, I know he got me. I don't know why you have to tell him he got me. And then he's just like, supervisor, can you remove this man? Like, you think he's always joking, but he's being like deadly serious. Like why is this guy standing near the high stakes game? And ever since then, he's like, and then the French guy goes to me, is this one of your friends? And I was like, I've never met this guy before. But since then, every time it was just like, I can't believe you just came over and said got him, and the guy was so mad. It just kind of just escalated from there.
No, that is good. Was there people talk about Macau a lot, but it's also quite a lot of mystique about Macau as well. I think is there much. It feels like from an outsider who's never been there before, it feels like all regs try to just kind of behave and just not cause much drama, not cause much attention, and just like almost quietly take the money off the amateurs almost, if that's kind of a fair representation. Is there much, you often hear about big clashes between like say the chairman and this guy, or the chairman and this guy, or whoever it may be. But is there much drama between the regs there? Because I hear Macau is the kind of place which can maybe send you maybe a bit wild because there's not much stuff to do, whatever. Is there much drama between reg on reg drama there?
No, not really. It's actually pretty awesome in that regard, because I see it as like the epitome of where poker should strive to get to, because they just get it. Like if you go to like LA or Vegas and you just kind of get into this like this kind of grind where you're playing against other regs and you're trying to be better than the other regs. Whereas when you get to the top of poker, I'm not saying that I'm at the top of poker, but that's what this feels like. It becomes way less about being the other regs. Every reg gets that. Like you might be slightly better than me at some spots. I might be slightly better than you at some spots. You'll get me sometimes. I'll get you sometimes. It's just a circle of life amongst regs. Like whatever. The big blind win rate between us is just nothing. But then when the VIP sits down, we're all like, all right, let's do our best not to piss this guy off. Make sure he's having a good time. Make sure that whoever wins his money isn't a dickhead to him. Like all those things that should be already known amongst poker players. It's just very clear here. And there's like, not there's a written code of etiquette, but like if someone will call you out for like maybe doing something that's like slightly inappropriate, that might put the guy off from playing. And it's good because it's like done in the intention that in the spirit of the game, that's like, we want this guy to have a good time. We know that he knows that he's not very good at poker, or he won't necessarily say that, but he's not good enough for poker to be in this game. He's here for fun. Our job is to be polite, have fun with him where it's appropriate, not be awkwardly funny, and have a good time with him. If he wants to gamble, we're here to gamble with him. That is our job at the end of the day. I'm not interested in battling Limitless or Hecklen or whoever else is there. We'll get into pots and we'll avoid each other, but that's where the money's made, is when that guy sits down, and that's everyone gets that, if that makes sense.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm sure I know you say everybody. Is it really everyone? I'm sure there must be some people who go there and maybe behave inappropriately or aren't used to, or maybe they're new to the scene. And then because poker players are quite awkward, myself, everyone is quite awkward at
Yeah.
times. So and also people act out of character or maybe irresponsibly, whatever it may be, however you want to describe it. Is it what happens if someone comes along and does act, say, unprofessionally for their game? Do people tell them? Is it that kind of
Yeah.
environment or?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you'll get called out for it straight away. I mean, but I also think that even if someone was awkward, like you've got 7 other guys acting quote unquote correctly, and it's quite
okay,
easy. It's not like it's like a you have to do certain things. It's more just if you're just sitting there quietly, you won't get noticed anyway. It's more the oddball weird stuff that people might do, or like they slow roll the fish, or they don't show their hands straight away. Be like, look, buddy, just show your hands straight away. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter if we see your cards. We all know how to play this game. Like if he wants to see your cards and you want them up, just show him your cards. Like, and we'll just explain to them that, look, we get it. Like, you come from like a game where like showing cards, you're, oh, that's an edge. But realistically, this guy's here having a good time. If you don't want us to see, fine, just throw your cards face down to him and he'll look. But if he wants to see your cards, just show him your cards. Like, and
yeah,
you don't really have to explain that much to people because if, for example, if you were one of those guys that was just like, oh no, I never show, I'd be like, look, mate, like and it would take it's 30 seconds for you to be able to understand that oh yeah, you're right, I should just let him see my card. Realistically, this guy doesn't have an edge. He's never going to have an edge. He just wants to have a good time. He wants to know what you had, if you bluffed him or not. Doesn't care if you bluffed him, but he just wants to see sometimes.
yeah. Interesting. So let's say Macau is the number one in terms of reg behavior. Where would you say is the place where there's the most drama, the place where people don't give a fuck kind of thing, the people where people act the most out of line? Vegas or?
Probably like the lower stakes anywhere. So
Okay.
any kind of 1-2 game where people think they're professionals and they're just like educating fish, and they're educating fish, they're educating regs, they're hit and running, they're not giving action, they're calling people out for things that just don't need to be called out and all that kind of stuff. And they get into ego battles and like ego battles not just while they're playing, but just like stuff that like you if there's a fish in the game and you're talking over him, that is rude, or that shouldn't happen, and people will do that all the time. Like, you want to engage with this guy, like that's there's a difference between not being bad and being good. I accept that, but all you have to do really is not be bad. So not talking over someone, which should be obvious, it isn't to everyone, should be a thing. And then trying to include this guy, that's a bonus if you can. If he doesn't want to be included, that's also fine. But read the room a little bit, have a bit of people skills, but you don't need a lot. You just need to not have the bad side of the people skills side, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Do you think you've ever had the bad side? Do you think you've ever been? Do you ever look back and think of somewhere where you've acted inappropriately, or were you ever the guy who was critiquing people? Or because we all go on the journey, right, of being from the bottom to we all
Yeah, yeah.
aspire to go to the top. So, did you ever find yourself maybe you were in like a bad mental state at the time? Maybe you were on a downswing. Maybe you had like you saw other regs winning where you thought you were better than them, and whatever it may be. Did you ever have that spell in? Because online it's easy to have and be bitter, but did you ever have that? Not have that self-awareness live whilst you were playing, or were you always quite good with that?
So when I first started, I was live, and I definitely had all the things that you mentioned on the last podcast where you're like, I should have won this. This guy doesn't deserve to win this. I'm way better than this guy.
Mhm.
Probably internalized a lot of it. And then I played more online for a long time before I went back to live more seriously, which probably suited me a little bit more, to be fair, because then I got kind of into the Macau world, and it was like, oh, this is how you treat people live, and that's how it is, and that makes sense. But there's still things. Well, I was probably one of the worst people at 1-2 for talking strategy at the table, and I did it in an arrogant way that, like, yeah, I felt like even if I spoke strategy out loud to people, to my friend listening, the people that are listening wouldn't understand it anyway. That was
Mhm.
what my thoughts were. But it's not that they would or wouldn't understand. It's just like they're just going to think that you're taking this game way more seriously than you should. I know that everyone takes this game seriously, but like at the end of the day, as much as we are poker players, people playing poker to get entertained. Like
Yeah.
they're there for a night out. They're there to have fun, and people just forget about that so much. I get the competition's fun too. We want to beat people that are better than us, but ultimately, you just got to read the room a little bit better. So the main one I probably did was talk strategy at the table.
Yeah. I think reading the room is important, like you say, because there are some VIP, not necessarily VIPs, but some amateurs who will kind of want to speak strategy, like they will kind of
Yeah,
whisper in your ear, like, oh, what do you think you had that hand? And I think understanding which guys actually do want to hear and are there. They just love poker so much. They're not there just to gamble. They actually are trying to like get a little bit better at the game or understand the game or understand what's going on.
Yeah.
Like I
And
think
always
when
help as well. I think so, that's another thing as well. Like some regs, they'd be a bit cold with that. Always help them.
yeah.
You want them to have a good experience. Like you give them like what 5% of information compared to what you know. Like they're going to cherish that and appreciate that, and then want to play more. Like everything's just about bringing them back to the game, and not in like a get them addicted way, but in just in a friendly way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
And you must get that a bit as well. Obviously, you're probably more well known in like the tournament scene, so people are going to see you as a well-known tournament player, and they're going to be like, "Oh, Patrick, how did I play this hand? Do you think this is a jam?" And like, I could see that. Like, I don't think people are going to ask me tournament advice, even if I'm in a tournament. I'll just like, "Yeah, I don't know, mate." Like, at tens and they go, "I think this is a jam. Might be a min raise. I've got no idea."
Yeah, I mean, I've one story where I remember quite clearly. Well, I have two stories. First of all, is when I was playing in like one of my first high rollers. I think it was either a 50K or 25K. I can't remember. There was an amateur from Kazakhstan, and we got into some all-in confrontation. I obviously had the best hand. It was like early on, and either I went to high five him before the hand. I think I went to high five him before the hand, like being like, I was like, I was in the situation. I was in the situation where I was really stressed. Where I was probably quite stressed about the all in because it was quite big for me at that part of my career, and I was like, oh god, I've got all in with like kings against ace four off or something like this, But I'm trying to like make it out to like the amateur and to like whoever else at the table, maybe it's Ike or whoever that, oh, like, this is not too big of a deal for me. And I go to like, oh, like high five him, like be like, oh, good luck. But he doesn't want to do it, which is fair. And I realize that it's okay. Then like an ace comes on the river and my hand is still kind of up somehow. I'm not sure. I'm like sweating the hand. And like an ace comes up on the river. And then like as my hand is going down, like very slightly going down, he goes to high five me, like saying like, to be nice. He's like trying to have fun, like because he was sweating it. It was big for him too. He was really involved in it. But my hand is already down. So like I've already committed to going down. So I just put my hand down and he like grabs my hand. Like imagine you're doing like an arm wrestle. He like grabs my hand and pulls it back up. And he took like he took big offense that I'd like unsportingly not high-fived him, but like sometimes when you're like committing to something, your hand just goes. And I didn't mean it. I obviously would have meant in this way, especially against this guy. And he took a big offense to that. So that was something which always made me realize just always be super attentive and not be, because it was very awkward. He was sitting to my direct right. It was like blind versus blind. I think he raised that free bet. He just forward shoved for like 100 big blinds, whatever. So that first of all made me be very attentive to the person next to me. But another one was actually kind of, this was more from like an ambassador point of view. I was deep in EPT Barcelona, I think last 20, I think it was. And I'd had a really stressful time in this EPT Barcelona. Basically, this was a time when Party Poker was really coming up against PokerStars. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. PokerStars had a monopoly. Party Poker were kind of fighting back against that monopoly. And Party Poker were like bigger than Stars, a lot of things like high rollers online. And we were fighting back against like rake back and all this kind of stuff. And I was on the feature table on the bubble. And we had a really fun feature table where it was like Akari, me, there was like 6 or 7 really like loud vocal people. And I thought that the stream was seeing this. But on the bubble of the EPT, they go to all the other tables, like the outside tables, if you know what I mean. So we were doing loads of jokes, loads of fun, and all this stuff was going on. And then we get into a hand against this guy who, long story short, there's lots of videos on YouTube of me playing against him, but basically I'd won 2 huge pots against him. And there was lots of drama going on and we're all having a big laugh about it, but it was seen as very serious because the producers of the EPT, they want it to be seen as very serious, like this is the bubble of the EPT. So basically what ends up happening is I get to the river and I'm the chip leader on tables. Do you know when it's a spot of the tournament where you're opening like any 2 cards and everyone knows you're opening any 2 cards? So we get to a spot where I've opened any 2 cards, the guy's called, I've bet the flop he's called, I've bet the turn he's called, and now we're on the river. I've bet the river and he's gone all in. So he basically can't have anything but the nuts. And I have like 7 high or like I have 6 high or whatever it may be. So I assume that the streamer's watching me and they can see my cards and I have 6 high or 7 high or like some garbage. And it's very obvious this guy has aces. So I say to him, I start talking to him because we're on the bubble, so I'm not wasting time. Like we're waiting for loads of tables to finish, and our hand's gone quite quickly. So I say to him, "Oh, will you show me?" I go to fold, and I'm like, "Oh, will you show me if you fold?" And then he starts to like slowly. Do you know when you start to like pretend to muck your cards when you think someone else has mucked the cards, but you both know you haven't mucked the cards? He starts to
Yeah.
do that. And then I pull my cards back and I'm like, oh, maybe you don't have it, but I'm obviously joking. I know he has it. So
Yeah.
anyway, I laugh, muck my cards, he mucks his cards. And then like 30 minutes later, I get a text from my dad saying, oh, hi, son. What are these people on the TV saying you're cheating for? And I'm like, what? I'm like, where's I assume it's from like some online hand or like some stable thing. I'm like, oh God, I'm gonna have to go like check what's going on. Then I realized that like the commentators, it was Joe Stapleton and James Hardican, two guys who I get on a lot better with now. They'd kind of like dramatized the whole thing that I was trying to angle shoot. And I was like, oh God. So anyway, it goes on. I'm getting loads of text messages. I'm trying to play the CBT. We're in the money now. I kind of forget it. I go back to my hotel room. Uh, I go back to I'm not sure if, again, there's loads of stuff going on at this point, but this was the time where there was also a terrorist thing going on in Barcelona. Like there was,
Okay.
I think like an Al Qaeda terrorist stuff where people getting shot and people in the poker room were scared and there was loads of drama going on. So anyway, I get home and Daniel Negreanu is at EBT Barcelona. And at the time he was a big face for PokerStars. You do all the no rake, more rake is better. This was
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly around that time. And he made a big video about me angle shooting on YouTube, and like this video now, I mean, I don't have it up, but I'm sure it's got more than 100,000 views, So for me being he was like, yeah, it's very obvious, but I didn't realize that there was no whole cards up, I think. And they didn't realize the situation on the table. And I think Akari afterwards, he posted something like, oh no, it was a big joke. Like we all knew it was a joke. And like he backed me up, which if Akari hadn't, he's a PokerStars Pro too. If he
Yeah.
hadn't
Yeah.
done that, I'd be in a lot of trouble, basically, I think. Or people wouldn't have taken my side. But anyway,
Yeah.
still to the
Your image would have been tarnished.
well,
So
still to this day, it's still tarnished. People still speak about it, which I find unfortunate because I've never done anything like this before, I don't think. So anyway, the next day or the 2 days later, I still have all this stuff on my mind. And there's this guy who comes up to me at the table. He's like, oh, hi, Pads. Like, I'm a big fan. And I'm like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, whatever. But I just have my headphones in. I'm just trying to like blank out everything and just get on with what I'm doing. And I as I remember it, I feel like I'm very polite to him. But I get back to London like the next week, and one of my horses is a friend with him. He's like, "Oh, this guy. I just want to let you know this guy said he came up to you and was saying he was a big fan and being very nice, and he thought you were very rude, and you just dismissed him and you just like big timed him." And I was like, and he must be right. Like if your impression is that someone else is big time and you and they're rude to you, you are being rude to them. Do you know what I mean? Like if you haven't
yeah.
made enough effort to make someone
Yeah.
feel like you've put the effort in, then
Yeah.
I've definitely
Yeah.
and at the time I am an ambassador and Party Poker ambassador, etc. So that really made me question a lot. Where it's not like I'm right or I'm wrong. Like I'm wrong. If you feel like if the amateur feels like you're in the wrong, you're in the wrong. I think. Do you know what I mean? So that's
Mhm.
kind of a big aha moment I had. And then since then, I've been very hypersensitive to kind of be as aware as possible. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I can't. I mean, obviously, with me signing to GG now and me obviously doing some other stuff in the poker world, these are only going to be lessons for me.
Yeah. Have you watched High Stakes Poker, right, by the way, this
Not
series?
recently. I used to watch all the ones with Gay Captain, obviously.
So the recent series is an interesting thing here. So basically, the formation is Tom Dwan, Brandon Stevens. He's like a car dealer from
Oh yeah, I
America.
know.
James Board, who's like
The
a
guy that won poker was for Europe.
yeah, he's like a. I'm guessing. I have no idea what his business is, but he seems very rich, but very clearly an amateur. Uh, Tom Dwan, like I said, Phil Ivey, Bryn Kenny, and maybe one other person. So what ends up happening is Ivy doesn't play Ivy literally, it's weird. Ivy's there, he doesn't play a hand for like the whole first two episodes. Then he leaves and John Andreas comes. Maybe you know John Andreas. Do you know him?
No, no.
He's like he works for Poker King, the app,
That. Oh yeah, okay.
like
Yeah,
the
I know of
Chinese
that.
the
Yeah,
Chinese
yeah.
app, and he used to be like a Zoom 500 reg, and I think he was very known for being tight. I think this is what I remember from him, but like a very good, smart guy. Like he does the security for like a poker room, whatever. So Ivy leaves, and John Andres comes. The first hand, I believe, James Board. get stacked off John Andreas. I think it's like Queen's Ace King. It's like something standard, nothing crazy. It's not like he's made like a hero call down with like Jack High. He's made exactly how Ivy would play.
Mhm.
And James Board stands up and he says basically, this is ridiculous. I don't want this guy in my game. There's too many pros in the game. He shouldn't be here. I want him to leave and I want to get amateur to come. And I felt like it's fine for amateurs to be in charge of the game. I get that. But I feel like it's also, if an amateur, what happens in Macau if an amateur is rude to a pro? Do the pros stick up for the other pros, or do they accept that, okay, the amateur must be correct? Because I feel like, I'm not sure if it's Tom Dwan or whoever else at the table. I think they should stand up and be like, look, like, I know that you feel unfair, whatever, but it's unfair to like this. This is this pro in high stakes poker who's never played on TV before, like playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably like a big shot, and he's getting someone really like speaking very aggressively to him. I also think it's unfair for pros to also deal with stuff like that too, basically.
Yeah. So the advantage you have in Macau with that is that it's played in a casino with casino rules, and there's like, this is how you get a seat in this game, and the amateurs just like, this is your seat if you want it type thing. If you don't like the lineup, you don't have to sit down, and they probably don't really care. But because it's in a casino, and I guess like a film TV show, it's going to play more like a private game where that kind of thing maybe happens more. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
The tough part in Macau about private games is that you're just not going to get in as a Westerner. It's like going to be Chinese only, and it's going to be, you're going to have to speak the language. And that's basically impossible for any reg to get in anyway, unless you're super well known and they kind of want to play with you because they know you. Like, so maybe Limitless might get into those games. But so they don't really misbehave that badly towards people. They're still respectful of people. There might be like, I've seen a few of them spit on the floor and like they own the casino and stuff, but like, and like that kind of stuff. And they're going to have like their own service staff and all that sort of stuff that they don't necessarily treat very well. But overall, towards the pros, they see you as equals. They see you as like, because a lot of these guys have the option to play in these private games and they're still choosing to play in a casino instead of these private games, that might weed out some of the more bad characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But equally, when they sit down to play, to them it's more like they know they're a dog, and they're like, well, I'm just going to try, and like they care more. Like, every penny they get from us is worth so much more to them because they beat us, if that makes sense. So you get that kind of player rather than the I just want to play and gamble and I want to like it all stacked for me type player, if that makes sense.
100%. 100%. Something I always find interesting is that I feel like I learn the most playing poker when someone else does something. So like, let's say I play against Graftekel or I play against somebody and
Yeah.
let's say they use a certain size, like even as much as, like lead and turns, like someone starts to lead a turn and like, that makes sense because of this or because of this, or maybe I see someone maybe they shove like 60 big blinds pre-flop with say Queen 10 suited. I'm like, okay, I'm going to run that now to see why he did it, Do you ever learn from the amateurs in Macau? Like, I feel like people, even like even amateurs or even people who played say 30, 40 years ago, the way I always say I say this a lot in interviews, but basically in Bobby's room and in Bellagio, I feel like 20 years ago, people used to raise for information. And then the card runners crew, do you know like the card runners crew in say 2010 or 2007-ish? They kind of came along very arrogantly and they basically dismissed that anything amateurs did was bad and we're going to do something new and we're going to teach it. So they started saying, okay, raising for information is bad, without using any kind of solver evidence. It was just like maybe one guy said it and they all stuck on what he said. And that stuck for like 5, 10, 15 years. And basically people would always laugh at, the guys in Bellagio, they raise for information or whatever. And even if I told a hand history, I'd be like, oh yeah, this fish, he raises for information. But then now we have solvers, we kind of realize, okay, there is some raising, not for information, but for protection or for some other reasons, which was what people were doing, So dismissing like very intelligent people, I think can be very dangerous. Like these players in Bellagio 20 years ago, sure, they're not going to win in 500 Zoom now, but they are very smart people and they're going to have some decent reasoning behind some stuff they're doing. So in Macau, do you ever, or in amateurs in general, do you ever feel like you learn from stuff they do as well? Or have you not taken that approach kind of thing?
No, so I completely get what you're saying with regards to like how poker's kind of like full circle. And the way I relate to that is like we're just humans trying to play a robot's game, and we're just putting like human terminology and logic onto these little solver lines. Like you can call it a raise for information, you can call it a raise for protection, but there's going to be some element that's protection, some element that's value, some element that's fluff, and like human brain trying to understand all that is just going, oh, I guess it's a race for information, and that makes sense, and then we can accept it. And there's all sorts of stuff like that all over the place. And when we're trying to figure it all out, obviously amateurs are going to have figured some of that stuff out, even whether it's by accident or on purpose. There's always stuff you can learn from anyone. As for learning from amateurs, I think less so these days, because I think the game has got so, I don't want to use the word advanced because there's obviously more that we can do, but we understand so much, like, with how fast people improve with online versus how fast they're improving in the past. I think that poker has seen what the amateurs have to offer to a large extent. And when they do something weird, we kind of already seen that, and we know that's either good or bad, or accidentally good or accidentally bad, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, in the past, I've picked up lots of different stuff. Now I'm in the same boat as you, where I'm looking at what the regs do and go, that's weird. Why has he done that? But I've had to learn to get there as well, because in the past I would have gone, oh, that's weird, that's clearly wrong. Whereas now I'm like, that's weird, why? And that's helped me get so much better at poker so much quicker. Because it's like, why did he do that? And not just did the solver do that, why does the solver do that?
Yeah.
Why is that a thing? And then I'm trying to put the human element to it, because as I said, like, it's a robots game and we're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah. And even, I mean, also the question is like, with regards to solvers, is like, is he doing that too, right? Because obviously the solver does
Yeah,
A, human's supposed
yeah,
to do B, and if the human doesn't do B, then how does A start to change? Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think watching you on your stream, you definitely do some stuff which is, say, really good against the pool, where if nobody knew you did it, it would work for so long. But as soon as people start to realize you might do it, it's the same with me, streaming or making videos, courses. You don't know like which regs are watching, you don't know which regs are
Mhm.
not watching, and you may do a line which you've said is an exploitative line. But then if someone else watches you do that and they know you're exploiting them, it starts to mess your mind up a little
Sure.
bit too. So like something I've seen
Well,
you doing, for example, is you like, it's a very, very good play, which like the high stakes players are doing right now. I think it's maybe like a meta. It's like you are kind of like raising turn bets to stop maybe being facing a massive river bet. It's like
yeah,
someone bets the turn, you raise, and then your range is so polarized that they are not really going to have like
no,
an
no, the
all-in
free bet
range.
range.
They start to
Yeah,
turn their range into a bluff catch range. Then
yeah,
you check back the river against the hand, which may have 2x pot shoved or something like this. I feel like that's
yeah, yeah,
something you do quite a lot. But if
yeah.
now I watch you and now I know that and you raise the turn, I
Get
can
it.
start like bluff shoving the turn. So have you ever thought
And then
about,
you'll start free betting some turns against me to exploit the fact that I'm exploiting what you wasn't doing in the first place. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that for me, what everything you just kind of said there is poker. That for me is what poker is. And I saw Goose talk about this on a podcast recently. I think he absolutely nailed it. He said that realistically, like, I can't, I'm probably not going to do justice what he said, but the crux of it was, all we're doing is giving each other puzzles. Like, you're giving me a puzzle, and you're going, and I've got to solve it in a way that's like, does he know this? Is he doing it for this reason? Is he doing it for that reason? Is he expecting me to do this? Is he expecting me to do that? And I'm throwing you a puzzle back, and that's all poker is us going, well, this is my puzzle. Are you being
mhm,
and I love that about it, because once everyone has a certain degree of understanding, that's we go back to pure poker again, where it's almost like, all right, well, you know what's bad in certain situations. We're trying to figure out what's good, and we have an idea, and we're all just slowly figuring it out, and we're all actually playing poker against each other again.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. But do you feel like, speaking this metaphor way about the puzzle, do you feel like they have more pieces to put together because you're putting your puzzle out there a lot of the time, whereas they
Yeah.
they have those pieces to put together? Do you ever feel like you're disadvantaged when you're playing your puzzle against their guys' puzzles, or do you feel like it's actually an advantage for you because you can constantly change how you're playing, and they have to watch a YouTube video every day to see how it's changing, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's just sick marketing, right? It's just got 15,000 views, but they're all from the Fire and the Zoom guys rewatching it.
Yeah.
No, I actually think there's two elements to it. So the first element is, I love the fact that it puts me at a disadvantage, because one, the win rate I get from Fire and the Zoom compared to, say, playing high stakes live is negligible. So getting the lessons for me to sort of test my strategies at what's probably one of the hardest regularly run games in the world, get better at my strategies, improve my strategies versus people that are trying to beat me and still hold my own against them, and then go and take that somewhere else, I think is worth huge amounts of EV to me. And yeah, so, and also it's going to help me improve faster, and that's what I've noticed. I noticed when I played for the full month of January and I was streaming every single day. Obviously, this is just a feeling, but I was like, well, I'm doing really, really well on this pool now. And obviously that was just from playing and playing and playing, streaming every single day. And I'm making mistakes streaming as well. I'm making mistakes because I'm obviously having to talk to the chat. I'm pressing enter sometimes. So I'm trying to chat. And I go, whoops, just min 3-bet the turn.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But no, I really enjoy it. I'm happy to put myself out there and expose myself and say, come and beat me. And I feel like that is like sort of a testament for my poker game as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. It's a weird journey. I mean, I'm on like similar path as well because, like I say, of the course and making YouTube videos too. You know,
Yeah.
it's always it always feels weird where I think poker's a game where it's really easy to level yourself. Like it's very
Yeah.
easy to you get into a hand, you start the hand very logically, you raise a range, which is a logical range, you
Mhm.
see bet a range, which is logical, the right size, very simplified. You get to the turn, things start to get a bit more complicated. You get to the river, and now you've gone from having logic straight away to now being like all these messed up things in your mind, you know, like he thinks
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
he thinks that, the other. And I definitely make mistakes based on that kind of the emotional side of poker, where it's like maybe I'm trying to convince myself that, okay, I want to fold the river here. And now I'm going to find the reasons why, because he's seen X, Y, or Z, you know. I really don't like. My crew is quite, let's say, crew is quite famous for like within like other like similar crews, quite famous. Like we don't ever use randomizers. Like we don't believe in it. We always believe that we'll always make a better decision ourselves than what a randomizer. So if we're supposed to fold 50%, we would rather like check our
Have a
data,
reason to do it.
check our databases at the end of the month or the end of 2 months or 3 months, and make sure we get into like the right category of like uh thresholds. So like our free bets
Yeah.
are the right thresholds. So like, instead of always randomizing 50-50 for a 50-50 free bet, we'll make sure that we just do it at the right spots, let's say, because in
Yeah.
tournaments especially there's ICM, and then we're very heavy on checking our database to make sure that we are not being too aggro, being too passive, folding too many rivers, calling too many rivers, whatever. If we do get into the threshold of being too tight or too passive on rivers or turns or flops, whatever it may be, we would then go and like re-question everything. But as long as we kind of everything looks okay and we feel good in game, we will back ourselves basically, because we've played for 12 years. We may as well use that experience to give us some EV. But
Yeah.
something which I've been doing recently is kind of swaying away from there in like emotional spots. So if I'm say deep in a 10K or deep in a 5K or deep in a 25K, instead of trying to make a really exploitative play where emotion could be overtaken because we're playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, that's when I'll start to use a randomizer. So like that's if I'm on the spot pre-flop where an aggressive Russian guy's free bet me small blind against cutoff, and I should four bet shove my ace five suited sometimes. I won't do it if I'm having an aggressive day or if I'm having a tight day or if this tournament means a lot to me. Or let's say even if I'm streaming and like, oh, staying in this tournament has EV kind of thing, and I may play too passive, like I will then use a randomizer. How I've seen you actually using randomizers quite a bit. I don't know if you use it actually on the table, like visually, but I know you've said, oh, we have rolled lower, rolled high, etc., which kind of surprises me because I feel like a lot of EV you have will come from being so experienced and having such a good feeling. Like I think that's very apparent that you have a good feeling. So why do you think you use a randomizer in these kind of spots?
I only use them pre-flop, and
Pre-flop, okay.
just yeah, post-flop I may have done it if I've played say 100,000 hands on stream. I've probably done it once post flop, and that's literally when I'm like, I want to know that I literally it might be something like it's either a call or fold. I can't decide which one. I'm gonna spin it, and above 50s this, below 50s this. That's super rare, and that's because I can't figure it out, and I've got things either side, and I can't decide. But yeah, I use it pre-flop, but I obviously don't use charts in game either because obviously I'm streaming, and so I don't always know. I kind of like that as not using my charts, even though I know roughly what my RNG would be with the charts. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, I know that I can say MP opens and the button three bets me and I've got jacks. I'm like, yeah, I know I can four bet this to get it in sometimes. I know I can call sometimes. I know I can four bet fold sometimes, probably not. But then I'm just like, well, I know I can do each of this sometime. Which one do I actually want to do rather than just relying on this number to tell me which one to do? And it's similar to what you're saying. Like, if then I check my stats afterwards and I'm not doing that enough, I'm not four betting enough, then I'm like, okay, where was the spots where I could have four bet that I didn't do and all that kind of stuff, and then reassess it from there. But I like bringing in judgment as much as possible, but then fine tuning your judgment so you know that you're not completely out of whack with what is GTO, if that's the right way of putting it.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like for especially amateurs watching streams, if a guy is always saying, "Oh, I rolled low, I rolled high," I think it can be
Yeah,
quite
it
off.
puts
I
off.
think it can be quite off-putting at times if like especially like some of the tournament guys, especially when they don't even have their randomizer out, because it may not even, if you just start saying the stuff, they don't really know what's going on. Like, what does he mean he rolled low? It like if like my mum was watching, what would she think? You know, like wouldn't really
Yeah, yeah,
understand it. So yeah, I always thought it's quite funny, and it's also funny seeing the guys who always like they keep rolling and rolling. So you see them like they randomize again, they wait for a
get what they
higher
want.
number, just do what
Yeah,
yeah, like they want to be aggressive, but they want to be cool enough that they're using a randomizer, but really they want to go with their gut. So they just keep rolling until they go with their gut. So they appease the cool kids and they also appease themselves internally as well, which I always
yeah,
find
yeah, yeah,
that happens
yeah.
quite a bit. I think that happens quite a bit. So I've seen you've done a podcast with Charlie. Well, not maybe not. Well, it wasn't a podcast. It was like a
Yeah,
debate.
debate.
A debate,
Yeah.
yeah, which is quite fun. What's your whole take on Charlie? Because I'm always been very not close to Charlie, but I get on very well with Charlie. A lot of respect for him. I think he's a great guy, stuff like that. And I think a lot of people maybe not shit on him, but he gets a lot of stick, I think, maybe for like his other beliefs. And then people are like, oh, well, if he believes in this, then I'm also going to say he's a very bad poker player. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to find weaknesses in his poker game kind of thing, where
Yeah.
if they believed in all the other stuff he believes in, maybe they would look for the positives in his game, which I think is kind of an interesting way.
Yeah, so me and Charlie are friends. I think Charlie's clearly very good at poker. He might not be the most uh, rigid, if that's the right word, with his poker game, but that doesn't matter because he gets the game for all the other side of the game, and his judgment's clearly there, all that kind of stuff. The debate, I was kind of he posted on Twitter about like HUDs are unethical, and I was like, well, I don't think they are.
Mhm.
And then he's like, okay, let's do a podcast, and I jumped in, and I was not ready for that debate to the degree that debate took place. I felt like I came across as quite like I was trying to listen to his points, and I was trying to like sort of validate my position and then sort of change it. And I was like, yeah, I kind of get the points that he came out with that like, yeah, it is. I guess it's a little bit unethical in certain regards, but I don't really think so. But maybe that's my bias because I've always used them. But at the same time, I don't really use them. I don't think they give you that much of an edge. So you
Mhm.
can't really compare them to like, well, he was trying to compare them to like RTA, which is real time
Yeah.
assistant. That basically tells you what to do. I think that's a
Yeah.
completely different kettle of fish. And then he basically said that you can't have this arbitrary gap between HUDs and RTA. And I was like, well, I disagree with that. I definitely think you can. I don't know where that line is ethically,
Mhm.
but I believe there is one, but I don't know where it is. And he was saying that we should tell all the amateurs that they've got HUDs if we want to use them. And I was like, I don't know, like, because that just, I mean, and he said it's the reason we don't tell them because of the PR. And I'm like, well, yeah, I think so, because every amateur that knows about a HUD but doesn't know them well enough seems to think these HUDs are like a tool to use against them when realistically I'm not using it against them. I'm using it against other regs and to check my own stuff. Not a HUD against the. I don't need a HUD to tell me you're a fish or you're open too many hands if I'm paying attention. It's really
Mhm.
not useful against you at all. But they think it is, and that's the problem. If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, I feel like HUDs. uh, I think people play more tables if they have a HUD. I think people think if they have a HUD, they can just play more tables, which is good for the site because then they get more rake. Something which I kind of I'm not sure if I posted it publicly or if I spoke privately about it, but I thought an idea of allowing people to kind of input their ranges, at least fold in ranges for some positions would be really good because in
Play
tournaments, so much of the time you fold,
yeah,
like you play eight-handed or nine-handed on stars, a lot of stuff is still nine-handed. Like the Sunday Million, I'm pretty sure is nine-handed. Most high stakes stuff is nine-handed. There's some eight-handed stuff. There's very little six-handed stuff. So much of your focus, like I play 20 tables when I play. Like I always play 20 plus tables, up to 20 to 25 tables for the most part of my volume. And most of the stuff I'm doing is just folding EP, folding EP, folding MP, like just folding trash hands. So I think short deck was very good in that it took away those bad hands, and amateurs like that. But I feel
yep,
like just being able to just auto fold a lot of hands would be able to, I would be able to play. I mean, maybe this is a bad thing, but I would be able to play 40 tables quite easily if I could just fold the bottom 60-70% of hands straight away. And I'm sure
yep,
sites would make so much more rate because everyone would be able to play more hands, and even amateurs who are comfortable playing, say, 2 tables, if they just folded their hands, it could be good. But also you could maybe input ranges in some ways, just for opening ranges of which hands are going to play from different positions. And maybe that would make the playing field a little bit more even, because the first instinct people say is, well, if you play 40 tables, you're going to make more money. But then if amateurs could also be a little bit sharpened up pre-flop with their ranges, and I know regs don't like this because then they think, oh, well, amateurs are going to get better, but they have to play their ranges well post-flop too, So
Yeah.
I feel like
Well,
that could be something which happens in maybe like 3 or 4 years. I imagine sites might start to allow it to happen. What do you think about that idea?
I don't think they'll do it. I think that I think what you've just described is probably the how good amateurs will get is the same as like a reg table amateur going to a Zoom pool amateur because they're getting hands faster. Yours is then going to make them even faster to get hands, and they don't have to wait anymore. In theory, can just open another table and they fold all the crap hands anyway.
Uh-huh.
So I think amateurs will get better and it will get tougher. You'll have regs playing more tables, which means amateurs lose money faster. And I think that I don't know understand enough about ecosystems to understand how that would affect things, but amateurs getting better, which means less money for regs, more regs playing tables, which means less money for regs and more rake, doesn't seem like the most plus EV things to do. I think it'd be great as a software for a reg if we could somehow build that because I would use it, but I don't see sites being like, yeah, please do that. And again, it's one of those things that how do you explain it to someone that doesn't understand poker properly?
Yeah. Well, on
Because
party we used to have hot hands. Do you remember hot hands?
no,
So you could basically on party you could basically do this thing where
they
if you
fold all the cold hands.
no, well, no, if you got like I used to have it for aces, kings, ace king, and jack 10 suited. If you could put like your 5 favorite
Wait,
hands, yeah, you could put your 5 favorite hands, and your table would flash double and be red, so you got like attention. Okay, this is a big hand coming up. So like it has kind of happened before, but like to a very small degree. And you could have cold hands where your table just like freezes cold, where you have like a bottom 20% bad hand. And even for amateurs coming into the game, let's say, and like we always think about, oh yeah, NL 500, like there'll be more fast fold, more hands. But, like most hands happen at NL2, NL5, NL10.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if
yeah.
you were playing NL2, and let's say my mum was playing NL2, and like the table came up like cold hand or freeze or like like an emoji on GG, the freezing emoji. Like if this just came up, then my mum like, oh, king 2 offsuit's not a good hand, or like, oh yeah, a6 offsuit under the gun, it's not a good hand. If anything, it's like a it's like a site enforced bot almost, which is almost directing you away from hands which are going to lose you a lot of money. Because I'm sure that it's very bad for the site if an amateur plays king 6 off under the gun, or if an amateur plays a6 off under the gun, or if the amateur plays jack 7 off under the gun. But for my mum coming into poker, she sees jack 7, oh, I can make a straight, oh, ace is good, or king is good. So maybe from the lowest levels, having and I'm not saying auto fold, I'm just saying like showing some hand
Oh,
is a bad hand.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I think also showing a hand is a really good hand, like ace king, like aces, like Party used to do. I think that's actually a good thing. It's like it's interactive. Okay, now is a good time, like, oh, this is
yeah,
time to
yeah,
be excited,
yeah.
so instead of a Zoom table always just being fold, fold, play, fold, having a little bit more excitement around the table and animations is good. And also at the higher stakes as well, it also helps. It means using a chart or using pre-flop RTA isn't as beneficial against other players, because
Yeah.
everyone could have their thing set
Another
up
version.
correctly. Because if I play
Yeah.
500 Zoom now, I don't know the ranges all properly. But if I play against someone else and they use, let's say, charts, I know they're going to straight away have an advantage against me. Whereas if I
Mhm.
could input a range pre-flop and I could spend the time doing that, that would probably incentivize me to play more volume too. So like
Yeah, yeah,
players
yeah.
who are maybe not profitable, or players who are break even, or who are small winners, I think their volume would go up because they wouldn't feel that they have a big disadvantage against the cash game regs. Because tournament players, I feel like, whilst we know we're not profitable, or whilst we know we have low EV, I feel like we're almost put off because we don't want to use this RTA, and we feel like other people are probably using the charts, or they just know the ranges better than us. So I feel like if we could input them, it would feel okay. Now we go post flop and we feel a little bit more comfortable. But I also realize why people are not too keen on it happening. Maybe if it was only for, say, NL2 to NL25, where there's not regs, exploiting it and
Yeah,
doing it to be using it as a
yeah.
bot to play 50 tables. Maybe that's a
Mhm.
good way. Then maybe it's almost coaching the amateurs to get to NL50 and understand a little bit about hand ranges slightly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Um,
think I think the extreme version of your idea probably won't get there, but some of the cruxes of what you just said in terms of the cold hand stuff, I think is useful. I think because if amateurs play less bad hands, they're going to survive longer and they're going to enjoy the experience more, and then that's what we want, right? We want to enjoy it and then maybe play higher stakes, and that seems like a good thing, especially at the lower stakes.
yeah, like I'm just visualizing it on GG NL2 guy plays. It's a cold hand, and then there's a video button pops up. You click the video button, and then to the right, you know how on GG they have the video thing where you can leave a video message like in game, like
Yeah,
video
I send
pop,
people started all the time.
that kind of stuff. That pops up with you, like you or whoever, like Negranu, whoever it may be, just give like an explanation about why this hand is a bad hand. So like, you know, you have so many pros, use the pros, like get your ambassadors
Yeah,
to work, you know. So like if GG have say 30 ambassadors, they all take 5 hands each, you know, it's 150 hands. If that hand comes up, which is a cold hand, you it comes up with a video and you can say a 10-second clip, King six is a really bad hand, doesn't flop very well. It's better to play King 10 offsuit from this position. Do you know what I mean? And then this is a
yeah,
way where you're starting to like interact with your ambassadors. You're
and
starting
educate.
to you're starting to educate slowly without them watching a whole training video, and they start to learn that way as well. And it could even be a good hand, like maybe they have Jack Nine suited and they're thinking about folding, and then maybe Pav pops up and like, oh, Jack Nine's really good, you know, like you have 44% equity against Ace King, and you flop a flush draw 10% of the time, whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? Just like that kind of small thing. I think that's how poker should kind of evolve and kind of develop. I'm not saying to make everything bot like or to make it really advantageous for the pros. I'm saying it to make it better for the amateurs to learn and to want to be
No,
there,
I
kind of
like the
thing.
idea of that for sure. That sounds great.
Yeah, so I guess it's a good way to segue onto the whole GG ambassador stuff, because
Yep.
you always had, I think for everyone it was always expected, okay, Ginge is probably going to be one of the next stars pros because you did all your volume on stars. It was always stars 500 zoom. People I think played 500 zoom because you played it. I think that would be fair to say, you know, like maybe play
Yeah.
against you, or
You
even
play with
myself, like if I watch your video in the morning playing YouTube 500 zoom, I'm more likely to in the afternoon to play 500 zoom on stars than I am on GG,
yeah.
or even party if I wasn't an ambassador, because yeah, you're playing there, like it seems fun, like the
And you
software, whatever
almost
looks good,
it's almost like you're already comfortable with some of the regs. You've seen them on my stream. I
and the
always
amateurs.
noticed that if the pool was kind of small, like say 20-ish people, if I streamed it, we get up to like 40, 50, 60 pretty quickly. Whether that's because a few more fish will jump in, a few more regs will jump in, or my alert would be like nudge the reg that the pool was running and all that kind of good stuff. So I felt like I did really good things for that ecosystem. I'm happy to have helped, but
Did they reach out
there's
to you, stars? Was there the
no,
conversation, or
no,
no?
they've never reached out at all.
Did you
The
try to
reps
reach out? Did you try to reach out to them?
I mean, I've emailed them a few times, but there's only so much that so GG reached out before about, I would say, when I first started, and I was a bit like, well, I don't really know what I am yet. I'm kind of just streaming for fun. I don't really know what my end goal is. And even before I sort of launched the academy, people were asking for sort of materials, and I was like, yeah, cool, but for me, I need a reason why, and that would motivate me to do it. And it took me a while, and I was like, well, why? You know, what is it good about what I do that I could show people or teach people, or what is it that I can bring to a site and all that kind of stuff. And it was until about 2 3 months ago that I kind of like figured all that out. And I'm not saying I've got it nailed, but the key thing that I want to help people with is, yeah, I want them to be good enough at poker to make money, and I want them to earn their financial freedom. But what I've always done in poker is I've coached people to get as good as I am, so that we can have like conversations where we're talking at the same level, and then they help me get better. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. And I feel like I'm at that point now with life. It's like, okay, I want people to have the financial freedom that I have, and if they use poker to do that, great. And then I want to know what to do next.
Mm.
And so I'm keen for these guys. I'm like, some of the people that have gone through the academy, some of the videos have nearly made me cry. That I've seen like the transformation of these people. It's honestly, it's really really great to see. But then with GG, I was like, right, what do I bring to a site? How do I make it better? And so I was doing my YouTube videos, I was doing my stars highlights, and that was relatively effortless because I just sent that to an editor and I put it on YouTube and blah blah blah. Eventually that'll break even and great. Um, but then I was like, okay, guys, what do you want to see on YouTube? And so my videos say go from like average 15,000 views to like and they asked for like hand breakdowns of the session. I was like, okay, yeah, that's easy enough. I can do that. And then my views would go down to say like 1,500 views. And then I realized like what I'm doing there is I'm going from like people that want to see me stream Fire and Zoom to people that want to see reviews of Fire and Zoom. And it's obvious when I saw that, I was like, I'm just making the market smaller. But what I want to do is I want to make the market bigger. And I was like, well, how do I do that? And I was brainstorming for a long, long time how to do this. And honestly, I'm so excited because these videos aren't out yet about my next stuff. And I've just filmed it all. It's probably like,
wow.
I think we filmed about 500 gig of footage.
Oh,
It's probably only going to turn out to be like 5-6 videos, but this is like our first run through, and it was pretty tough. And we probably got a lot of stuff wrong. And we hired a cameraman, and he was not the best cameraman. And but I'll just give you a little like insight into what we're doing. But basically, we want to take poker to people that aren't interested in poker. Like we want to take poker and show like the lifestyle that we've got in Thailand, and show the lifestyle that you can have anywhere, and just sort of show people that poker is how we got there, but it's not the reason that we're doing it, if that makes sense. So obviously COVID's hit Thailand pretty hard, and we're just going to travel around to the sort of touristy spots, go and have a look around, but like use poker as like our tool of doing that. So for example, we went to this island called Koh Chang in Thailand. On the way there, we had a game of poker between ourselves. The loser had to get the hair shaved off. Wasn't me. Then we played. Then I did a session of 100 on GG to see what the budget was for the hotel while we were there.
Oh wow!
Just so you can see like the kind of budget stuff that you got there. And then the island was called Koh Chang, and Chang in Thai means elephant. So the first challenge is it's 4 guys and me and the cameraman. And the first challenge is, right, I'm going to ask you general knowledge questions. So I asked kind of like, I tried to make it a little bit pokery with the general knowledge questions. If they get it right, they come over to me, and I'm wearing the hat the whole time. They come over to me, grab a motorbike key, go and see if the motorbike works. If it doesn't work, they have to get back in line and answer another question. Eventually, the motorbike works, they can go. And their challenge is to go around Koh Chang. They had to get an item of clothing with an elephant on it, and they had to haggle. They couldn't accept the first price, and they've all got GoPros on so they can see it being filmed. They had to get a bottle of Chang beer, the biggest one wins. They had to get a photo with an elephant statue, biggest one wins. And they had to get someone to make the noise an elephant makes. Like, who knows what that is? And then get back. So that's the kind of stuff that we're doing. So it's like, it's poker, but it's like, it's not, if that makes sense. Like poker is part of that, but it's not the kind of, that's all there is. Like, so people see us playing poker, great, but we're just having a good time in Thailand, showing people. And then we did like loads of giveaway stuff as well. The second challenge was like split into 2 teams. One team had to go and run away and get as many people as they could to say, got him. And the other team had to run away, get as many people as they could to say, subscribe to Ginge Poker. And whoever won, whatever I made in that session, got to give that away to someone. And they ended up giving it away to this young Thai girl, who then just gives all the money to her family. It's like stuff like that. You can't write that stuff. Like some of the stuff that we got up to was just incredible. And that for me, when I said to Gigi, this is what I want to do, will you be able to like basically expense these videos? And they're like, if they're good, we will. And that for me is like my next step in poker. It's less about just me grinding 400 Zoom and content. Like showing people. Yeah.
Content.
Like, yeah, it's content. It's like, right, I'm all right. If we get this thing right, I don't think we're going to nail it first time around. We're going to be like, there's bits we can change and bits we can make better and make this more engaging. And maybe we can do things like offer people to come and join us on these adventures, especially once COVID finishes, and really start helping some of these people and get around other parts of the time. Then maybe we go and do it in America, maybe do it in the Philippines, maybe do it somewhere else. And that for me is what I can do for poker now, is just like grow that like ambassador role in terms of like showing people that I'm having a good time. And if people want to know how I ended up doing that, it's all from poker, and I'm thankful for that. And that's how I see my role growing. And then more things have grown from that. And the fact that Gigi were going to let me do that, I was like, right, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, interesting. So I think a lot of people see being ambassadors like kind of an end goal for a lot of people too. I think more so like 50, well, maybe 10 years ago with Full Tilt, like everyone's end goal is like, I want to be a Full Tilt Red Pro. Or I want to be a Stars Pro. Was that an ambition of yours growing up now as well? Like when you were, say 10 years ago when you were coming up?
It was definitely, when I first got into poker, my goal was to do that. And then I think that, how do I say this in a nice way? Like, I think streaming diluted that a little bit, because it felt like a lot of the sites were giving away, like if you could stream on say ACR and you almost get not a pro deal, but some sort of diluted pro deal. So you don't really get like the the sort of end boss contracts, as I imagine they were thrown around when it was Full Tilt versus Stars days. So
Mm.
it was weird for me because it wasn't like I wasn't doing the stream to get a pro. I was doing it for fun, and everything that's come of that has just come from that. And now I'm thankful to be a pro. But like it's kind of it's weird because as soon as I almost like didn't want it, that's when I got it.
Yeah. Do you think people tried too hard to be a pro almost like their goal is too much? I feel like if you do the best version of yourself, that's going to be the best chance that you have of being an ambassador. You know, like if your goal is I want to do everything to be an ambassador, probably it's not going to end up working. There's so many people who are doing the same thing. But if you be yourself like you did on YouTube and you just be an honest version of yourself, I think that also comes across very well too. There's a lot of people who make content who are trying to appease other people rather than necessarily just be themselves, you know? So I feel like maybe what would your suggestion be to people who do want to be an ambassador? How would you say to get to that point?
Well, I would say authenticity is key, like to anything that you do in life. And I think that the sooner you realize that, the sooner you can be more comfortable with yourself, and the sooner you can help yourself grow to whoever you end up being. And like, there's no shame in anything that you are. Appeasing people is just people can see that, people can read into that. That's one of the reasons that like people really enjoy watching like Gazzy B stream, and I really enjoy
Mm.
watching Gazzy stream because he's just full force is Gazzy B all the time, and it's just like he doesn't care. He's been on downswings. He posts all his losing graphs. He doesn't try and sugarcoat anything. And like that's for someone that's like when you first start streaming and you do hit those peaks and troughs, you're a bit like, oh, I'm going to show everyone I'm losing. And like even I had to go through that to start. It's like, yeah, I'm losing, and like, yeah, this happens. But Gazzy's been there. Gazzy's been fighting that good fight for a long time, and like
Yeah.
people want to see real poker. People want to see real people. No one wants to see this like polished version of someone that never uses colorful language. Or I'm not saying that you have to use colorful language, but like if people can see when you're trying to tread a line too much.
Mm-hmm.
People are way smarter than people give them credit for. Audiences are, I think, at least.
I mean, Lex is number one, right? And he basically
Yeah.
is exactly what you just said. He's the kind of guy who he'll swear if he wants to swear.
Yeah.
He'll berate someone if he wants to berate them. You know, he'll bluff when he wants to bluff. He does it for him. He doesn't do it for the stream. Whereas I think a
Yeah.
lot of people may like force things for the stream. Maybe they bluff for the stream rather than for themselves. Maybe they swear for the stream rather than for themselves. Whatever it may be, I feel like I think Lex comes across as so authentic that people can really see that it's real, and I feel like that's why he is so popular, so successful. As well as I think he has the background of being on WSOP and being on high stakes
Yep.
poker. That combined is big. But there's a lot of people who have been successful previously in poker who've tried to do what Lex has done, and they've all failed or they've all given up. Like Lex grinded it up. It wasn't like he just turned number one overnight. He really grinded hard, which is good. So with GG, obviously, there's a lot of you kind of joined in a moment where there was a lot of drama with the Dan Bilzerian stuff. Did that delay you signing in terms of like the timing, or was it just like did nothing change there, or how did that all come about?
So some of the bits I've heard from GG in the past, because I was like, right, so how does this work if I'm a site ambassador? Like, is what I say going to be like more of a important thing? And I was already talking about like maybe making a video about me switching from stars to GG, and do I have to talk about GG and like, oh, this video is sponsored by GG, and they're very good at saying, look, whilst obviously we'd like you to start switching your volume to GGpoker, we don't want to stifle your growth in any way. We want, at the end of the day, we want to grow poker. And
Mhm.
that's more important to us right now than only people on GG. Because the poker gets bigger, we've got a big market share, that's going to grow. And I love that they can see that. As for like my personal brand, they were like, you are yourself. You like whatever you say, we're sponsoring you as an entity and you're separate to GG. You're like, if you say stupid things, like we're not going to like throw you under the bus. Well, but that's not to do with what GG is at all. If I've worded that correctly, they basically said say what you like. So, but as for the Dan Bilzerian thing, my personal stance on that, if I can get into that, is
Sure.
I think they just see it as like, whilst it may be the wrong decision now that it's turned out this way, I feel like they see it as like, okay, Dan Bilzerian is going to bring this many people to us, so we're just going to do that, and that's just like them being aggressive business wise. And whilst it has made some noise on Twitter and has made some noise somewhere else, I think they just see that as like minor relative to the fact that he'll bring in this much business. If it turns out not to be the case, it's going to be a poor decision. But I think in their like ultimate black and red, sort of like figuring out the numbers. That's what they care about the most. And I don't know where I stand with that in terms of Dan Bilzerian thing. I don't really think about it. It's I'm just kind of doing my own thing. And but yeah, I didn't delay the signing at all. They kind of just announced a bunch of streamers as a batch, and I was like probably one of the last ones that they recently announced. I know they just announced Sasha as well, but we're on a group together, and obviously we're all going to collaborate and grow it. But like Dan Bilzerian's on like a different tier to us, and it's like they got the top 5, and then they got the rest of us. So the top 5, I think, is like Negreanu, Felipe Ramos, Elki, Dan Bilzerian, and one other, I can't remember.
Used to be Bryn, I think. Maybe not anymore.
Yeah, I don't think Bryn's there anymore.
So yeah, kind of something interesting you said is that I don't want to say the word you said because I may say it wrong. You said something like what Dan Bilzerian says, I don't care, or something, or I'm not going to think about it, or something like that. What was the terminology you used? You said basically, I'm going to just focus on me and not focus on Dan Bilzerian.
So the Dan Bilzerian and what he represents for GG, that's not something I'm really like focused on. I just want to focus on the stuff that I want to bring to poker and I'm going to bring to GG, if that makes sense. I don't have a strong opinion either way of whether he should be brought on or brought off. I think that what their ultimate decision would have been based on is how many people that's going to bring to GG, as opposed to how many people that would offend. I feel like they might be like, oh, and this might not be the true numbers, but they're like, okay, that's going to offend 500 people. They'll forget about that soon, but it's going to bring in 10,000 people. I feel like they'll make that decision that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I feel, I mean, my personal stance on it is that you know Diver Byrne, she's
a new pro for GG as well, right?
I feel like she's had, I think she's not a pro. I think she has a title where she's like I'm not sure the exact title. It's like not an ambassador. It's like something where she's like a link between like her group. Friend of GG, I think. Yeah, I think she's got a lot of stick. Basically, she joined GG basically the week
just
after
that kicked off.
And a lot of people are like, well, you know, like, how can she accept this thing as a lady when Dan Bilzerian's saying this stuff about ladies? But when you join, when Pav joins, it's not like, oh, well, how can they accept it? It's like, oh, only women can be offended by Dan Bilzerian, you know, like, and at the same time, if Diver has the same stance as you, saying, oh, like, I'm not offended by that, she's then seen in like kind of a negative way, where I feel like if you want to give Diver stick for being
I should get it too.
I think you should get it. I think Pav should get it. I think everyone else should get it. And I feel like I'm not sure if this is basically how the industry or even society treats women. Basically, they're saying it's very easy to throw the woman under the bus there rather than to give you guys as much stick. You know, I'm not saying you should get stick. I'm not saying Diver should get stick. I'm just saying
one of us does, we both should.
I think both should. Yeah, I think it should be both ways. And I feel like, you know, being a feminist, you don't have to be a female to be a feminist. You know, you can like, I would like to consider myself as a feminist. I'd like to consider my family as being feminist, you know? So I feel like how a woman treats a woman should be treated the same way as how a man should treat a woman, if that makes sense. I don't feel like just because Dan Bilzerian comes on that Diver should, and I feel like Diver's had so much stick on Twitter and in other places where I feel like it's unfair. And I'm not saying it's unfair that the stick she's getting, and it could be fair, but it's not fair to all be thrown on one person. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like I agree. Are they throwing it on her because she's a woman? Is this actually telling us a story that, yeah, like women are treated poorly in poker because she's seen straight away in that light? Do you know what I mean? Whereas, like even to a level where, I mean, I'm not sure this is necessarily true, but you know, like Vanessa Selps used to get so much stick for being the punter, you know, like there's lots of male ambassadors who punt so hard. I don't know,
man. Her punts were pretty. It'd be interesting if you did a cross section of face down, like don't tell you who the hand was, to level, like rate them how punty they were, and then prove to me that I think she's more of a punter than someone else that I've rated that have more punts. That'd be really interesting to see, because you could literally directly point out my own bias there. But
sure. You know, okay, the next
bases on the big game. I still remember that one.
Yeah, it was something I would like to say is about Sasha. So Sasha is a PLO player, and she's the new ambassador of GG. I feel like for Sasha, two things. I feel, first of all, there's no way people can say that Sasha is being made a GG pro because she's a female. I feel like
Right.
Sasha is a great ambassador for Omaha. She's known across card rooms. She travels the world playing PLO. I know she
Mhm.
traveled to like King's Casino to play PLO
Yep.
festivals. I know she
Yep.
plays in Vegas. She starts games in Vegas. She has
Yep.
a lot of history of Joe Ingram doing loads of PLO stuff together. So she's a great ambassador for not just poker, but especially Omaha. And I know GG have an Omaha series right now. But I feel like her ambassadorship hasn't been celebrated to the level it should be because of the whole female GG stuff going on, because they know the whole backlash which Diver got, the whole backlash which a lot of Dan Bilzerian stuff got. I feel like the industry, maybe even GG themselves, haven't kind of glamorized Sasha's ambassadorship as much as potentially they should do, because this is a female who is really, really nice. When you meet her in person, she's great to everyone. She travels the world trying to grow the game. She's friends with loads of legends like Barry Greenstein, but she's also friends with the new school as well. She starts games. She also gives a lot of action. She's a great, great ambassador for poker. But I feel like it's been almost not swept under the carpet a little bit, but it hasn't been glamorized to the level as it may have been, let's say 2 months ago or 3 months ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I feel
But
like is a
Sasha,
big shame.
I think Sasha's great too. And I think Sasha comes with, like you said, like a warm audience that she knows everyone. She knows a lot of people already. And the difference between, like, obviously, I think Diver in the past, though, has been more bringing women onto different sites, and that's she's more direct in that kind of sphere. So I feel like that's why she would have got more of a backlash, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. Not that that's correct. Um, but yeah, Sasha definitely should have been celebrated more. And obviously, the Dan Bilzerian thing is because Dan Bilzerian's obviously got a big audience broader than the people that already are in poker, where Sasha's audience can come majority from people that are already in poker as well, I guess.
Yeah, 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 sure. The whole Dan Bilzerian thing, it's a big topic for sure. I think it's something which, yeah, you need to spend a lot of time to consider it to really have a proper say about it. I think poker going down the avenue of just bringing in anybody who can grow the game and not worry about the consequences is maybe not too great of a way to do things. I'm not saying that's necessarily what's happened here, but I do think it's good. I think something poker hasn't done too great of is, I mean, I've been very vocal of this on in previous podcasts too, so it's good to say this again now. But poker's been very good, first of all, at getting big ambassadors into the game, like Cristiano Ronaldo, Rafa Nadal, Neymar, etc. But it's done a very poor job of using these people to activate people. I think, like maybe they've
Yeah.
done like an Instagram post or whatever, but there hasn't been as much using it. Like I mean, I'm not saying this. I think people know I'm not biased, but with Party, I think they do quite well with Kevin Hart, where Kevin Hart, I think, was with PokerStars and didn't do too much, I don't believe. But now, whenever I see adverts on Party Poker, like mainstream adverts, Kevin Hart's in a lot of the adverts, bringing his energy, and he's does a lot of good stuff there, I think. And I think recently, to give PokerStars credit, when I play on PokerStars, I play a lot against Neymar. Like he's actually quite active playing, and I'm not
Mhm.
sure if is this PokerStars pushing him or does he just love poker? Because I know he does love poker, but
Yeah.
I feel like for poker to really grow and get to the next level, the stuff you said you were doing, I think is great. But to get to the even next level is using influencers who are not currently involved in poker, like Cristiano Ronaldo, like a Dan Bilzerian type of person, type of figure. You know, I'm not saying exactly him, but that caliber of audience, and try to use them and try to collab with them. So maybe the thing you mentioned earlier about traveling around Thailand, maybe sending out an ambassador with you and doing something together and pushing like that could be a really good way of doing it. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is not going to go to Thailand for 2 weeks and wear a Ginge hat, but
It's GGpoker and Messi just out there in in the middle of the jungle going.
yeah, yeah,
See how many we can put in the top bins.
yeah, exactly. But that kind of thing, like, I mean, you say top bins, but straight away when I hear something like that, I think content. I think, okay, why do I not? Let's say Party Poker have an ambassador. Let's say Trent Alexander-Arnold, like an English footballer. He was actually left out
Yeah.
the England squad today. So let's say Kieran Trippier. Let's say Kieran Trippier is a Party Poker ambassador. Why not play free kicks against me? Whoever
And
scores
you
the
play
most,
heads up against him.
well, handicapped, right? So it's basically it's 2 in 1. So football fans really want to see Kieran Trippier play football. Poker fans maybe want to see me playing poker. So you can bring the two audiences together. I can do free kicks against, let's say, Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish, he loves to be in the media. He loves to do interviews, stuff like that. So we do free kicks. So we do a penalty shootout. For every penalty you score, you get 1,000 chips. And then when you play a poker game, and then you have the chips in there, and then it's like a proper handicap, right? Because it's
Yeah,
skill
correct,
versus skill
correct.
level. And that's a way where I think you can use an ambassador, bring them together with a poker
And
ambassador,
that's what we need to do.
and then
I think you've got
target.
it on the head. We
Like I
need
think,
to figure out ways of bringing poker to be like part of the ambassador's role, but not necessarily like directly like playing on the site. Just bringing awareness to playing poker in like real life, and have poker as like the undertone rather than just the
yeah.
overtone, which doesn't seem to strike people as much in the content space.
Yeah, because I feel like that you see these ambassadors, they play one tournament a year. You know, maybe they play
Mm.
like an anniversary million, or maybe they play like a WPT or a GG this or a Unibet this, and they play their one and they tweet about it. But if you do a video like this, you know, you can get millions of views for these kind of, like penalty videos on YouTube. You know, like it's all the rage. You know, you get millions and millions of views for this kind of thing. So I just feel like the sites can do more and they have to do more. And even Dan Bilzerian, just having Dan Bilzerian there as an ambassador, not doing anything, you know, like I know they're doing stuff like the Poker After Dark game and stuff like that. So I'm not saying GG
Well,
and Dan Bilzerian are not doing anything,
the
but
way I would sum that up is, and Gigi said this to me, and that kind of set my thoughts in motion, is like there's a difference between retention marketing and like expansion marketing. So
position.
retention is stuff like streaming, because like streaming is not getting new people into poker. It's getting the same people into poker and making them aware of what's available in poker. Similar to
Mm.
Poker After Dark, that's not getting new people into poker. That's getting people already interested in poker to see celebrities play poker and go, oh, and validate themselves, and oh, this is sponsored by this site, and make this more aware. What we're not doing in poker is the other side, which is like the expansive marketing. It's not, we're not taking it to new people. We're not taking, like, the retention marketing is great. Obviously, we need that. Obviously, sites have to push that, and that's how we're going to play in different sites and validate them, all that kind of stuff. That's obviously a big part of the pie. But what we really need to do in poker now is go, how do we get more people into this game?
Mm.
Not the same people. Like, yeah, great, that's a market too. But the bigger market is everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of it. And the one thing I disagree is you have acquisition and retention, right? So you
Mhm.
have the acquisition of Dan Bilzerian bringing somebody in, or whoever bringing someone in. You then have the retention of you getting the I say like the rec. I always use this term. It's like a recreational player who's a regular. It's like the guy who goes to Genting Casino twice a week. Like he's an amateur, but he's a regular amateur. There's a difference between him
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
guy who Dan Bilzerian brings in. But once Dan Bilzerian brings somebody in and he deposits $20, usually what happens is this guy loses his $20 instantly, and then he just disappears. I don't feel like there's enough retention marketing or retention stuff focused on the guy who immediately deposits. Do you know what I mean? So
The one deposit
Dan
guy.
Bilzerian brings somebody in, and then after he brings them in, what happens then? Because he's not going to watch your stream because he's not at that level. That level
Mhm.
becomes way, way advanced. You know, like that's the
Mhm.
guy who's played 100 Zoom before, who's played 5,000 hands, or the guy who goes to Genting Casino twice a week, or whatever it may be. It's not the guy who's been attracted via, say, Unilad or Lad Bible, or, you know, girls websites, whatever it may be, porn websites. I know there's marketing on porn websites, right? So a guy comes in through Pornhub, let's say, he deposits $20, he spunks his $20, and then what happens now? You know, like I don't feel like that's why I feel like these cold hands and this like stuff with the videos popping up of you guys or us guys, whatever, coming up straight away, telling him why he made a mistake. And it can also come up after a hand, because what I feel like happens, let's say I play an online video game like FIFA. I play FIFA and I take a shot from, say, a bad angle and it hits the post, and I'm like, oh, that's rigged. Let's say instead of it being rigged and I don't play, let's say there's a guy called F2 Tex. He's like a famous the best FIFA player in the world. Instead of after the game me rage quitting, what if F2 Tex came up and said, okay, this shot you took from this angle isn't very good. If you took it from this angle instead, you'd have a higher success rate because of X, Y, or Z. And I feel like in poker, when you bust your account, you get something coming up saying deposit question mark or cashier, and
So again,
instead of saying go again or cashier, or someone thinking the site's rigged, or another Russian beat me, it must be rigged towards Russians, or a Russian guy sent it to a Brazilian guy. What if instead you just got a video saying, look, this hand you played isn't a good hand from this position, or you called all in with a gut shot. It's not good to do this because your percentage is this. You can make very simplified videos, which are like, it's not like a 10 minutes training video these guys have to watch. It's just tipping them. And then I feel like if I watched a FIFA game I took a bad shot. Then this guy says, "Oh, you should have shot from this direction instead." I'm like, okay, I'm going to play another game and try playing it that way. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how, and that's what I feel like retention is on a basic level. Like, I'm not the FIFA player who's going to watch Twitch streams, but if I'm
Mhm.
forced retention marketing down my throat, I'm going to watch it because it's forced down my throat. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
do a really good job with the retention side on the higher level, the reg level. Dan Bilzerian or whoever does really good job bringing in the people from an acquisition side. But I feel like there's nothing happening at
But
this
there's a bubble here for like retention for the acquisition that doesn't hit the retention that we've already got.
100%. And this is the most important thing because the first deposit for someone is not an important deposit because most of these guys go, the $20 doesn't go to the site because they lose their money at 25 NL straight away with a gut shot. All that money goes to a reg. GG gets like $1. They've already paid $50 in marketing. This guy doesn't come back. That's not a good acquisition. Like, this is not good. This guy coming into the eco pool, that's been a bad acquisition for GG because they've spent $50. They've paid Visa 50 cents to get him in. The reg's taking all the money and GG's got like $2 of rake, and then they have to pay rake back to other people anyway, whatever. So this is not good bringing this guy in. It's only good if this guy deposits 5, 6, 7 times, or his initial $20 deposit stays
Last.
for a longer time. I just feel like it's not. I'm not saying it's GG. I'm not saying it's Polybook. I'm not saying it's PokerStars. I feel like as an industry, I'm kind of surprised that we're not at a stronger level than this. I know, again, I'm not trying to be biased, but I'm obviously, if I say stuff to you, I've also said it to Polybooker too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We have stuff like My Game coming up, which is and My Wiz, which is like kind
And
of
I was involved in my game years ago.
okay, yeah. So you know that kind of there is an understanding that this is the level, but I feel like happening in a better way potentially where like I said, a video popping up of an it could even be Dan Bilzerian or Kevin Hart making the video. You know, it could be those guys. You know, they don't need to be super technical to say not play gut shot. Your percentage is 12% or whatever it may be. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it could be like that, but that I don't know. Hopefully we have a conversation in a year's time and we speaking
Oh,
about
remember when
how
we suggested all that and it's all happened.
yeah. And people often say, oh, like they took
How was your top bin challenge against Ronaldo?
yeah, against James Ward-Prowse. But yeah, let's just quickly go on to the Ginge Poker Academy before we wrap up because I feel like
Sure.
that's something which has got a lot of traction too. So
Yeah.
first things I would ask about, first of all, like where did the idea come from? Second thing would be kind of how did you think about the pricing? And
Mhm.
then third of all, like how do you imagine it's going to be in say 6 months, 6 years, etc.
Yeah, so I had to come with the idea. I was more people were asking me for something and I wanted to give it to them and I needed a reason why. And it was I wanted to give someone everything that I had in a way that was digestible and understandable and implementable and all these other good things. And I don't think I was capable of doing everything that I wanted to do on my own. So I spoke to a guy called Joshua Stania. I hope I didn't do his surname disjustice there. But he's more of a performance guy. And I think between the two of us, we basically meshed poker and performance and where each part was important. And we did like a trial run. And our initial idea was to get the guys that joined in. So it took me a while to put all this stuff together in a way that I thought was good. And this might sound really arrogant, but I basically made an hour and a half video, which is like no bullshit how you play poker. And it's probably one of the most dense poker videos out there.
Okay.
And it's the kind of video where I always warn everyone that joins, I go, look, you're going to get this video. It's an hour and a half. You're not going to understand all of it, but there's no like, oh, maybe we fold here. And there's no waffle in this video at all. It's all just straight. This is it. This. They may have to watch that 3 or 4 times, maybe more, to be honest. And but the point is that they won't get it all at first, but then maybe after like week 2, they can start going, oh, that's what you meant when you said that. Oh, I get that now. Oh, okay, I get this. And in between all that is us working with them, helping them understand the first video, and then adding supplementary stuff to that, and then going through the performance stuff with them. And we find that with the process, it's very similar with everyone. They kind of just come in, they struggle a lot they think they understand it, then they realize they don't understand it, then they struggle, then they lash out a little bit, then they go, oh, okay, and then they sort of like they kind of go like this, and then they go, whoa, and then they sort of take off. And that's really cool to see because they don't come out. I don't promise to make people like firing a Zoom crush at the end of this course. It's more like, what you've got to do now to get there, and you've got all the right tools in place. It's like I always say, like at the start of your journey, if you just had that little bit of coaching at the start, it would
Mm.
just save you like infinite more time. And it was I didn't want to go down the CFP road because I felt like there's like they're really hard to do right, because you know the time wise from me and making sure that you find the right fit of students, whereas I kind of wanted to do something where I could take anyone
Mm.
and it's going to be good for them. So the first run through we did, we wanted everyone to also vlog through their experiences, and they were really great feedback, and we also thought that'd be good marketing too based on their
Mhm.
experiences, and I still agree with that. And to sort of force them to do that, we basically sold the first one at like $1,500 as like a trial to sort of see, like, get people to do it. And we had like we had about 200 applicants for the first one.
Seriously,
And
Jesus.
yeah, and but video wise, we only had 50 to 60, maybe just over 60. So basically at the first one, I was like, you can apply with the form, but just in case, I want you to reply video, but you can't apply form.
Mhm.
Because I want to see the people I'm going to be working with like pretty
Of
closely for the next
course.
few weeks. And it gives you an idea of like what kind of, you know, if they're going to stick to this and if they're going to do this, and like the effort to do something like that is already a big tick for me to say they're going to put effort in to do something else, even though it's a really minor thing. And then we basically gave them a $500 rebate when they'd completed the course.
Hmm.
And we used their feedback and we used them to then go, right, what do you think this is worth? And it was an intense course, but all the guys that, you know, I feel like I'm really close to all the guys that did the first course. And it was between me and Josh working out what should we do for the next one. And then I think we upped the price to 2,500 with a $500
Mhm.
rebate. And we're like, okay, let's see how the market reacts to this one. And then we sold that out again. And then
So
the
next
third
step's go
course,
to 5K, or where's the
no,
next price point?
the next step, and we're currently working on this, is going to be, so then we reduced it to a month because we knew the steps and we knew like there was bits that we gave them too much at the start in the first one, and we structured it better. We added more performance side of the stuff in. So we make the product like better every time. And then we increased the price based on the demand. So then the
Mhm.
third one was $2,500 flat and a rebate, because that just became too much of a headache if we're going to try and grow this at scale with like, all right, here's your $500 back, and you haven't quite done this, but you need to do this. Then because we want to give everyone the $500 back. Like it's not like we don't put that into our figures or anything. That's just like we
Yeah.
want. It's just, can you do the exit vlog? And then some people are a bit busy and maybe they miss it, and they still get the money back a week later. But then I've got this money I'm waiting to give people back, and it just becomes a bit of a headache. So then we just did a flat 2,500. But round 4 is going to be a 2 month. I think it's going to be around 2 months, and we're going to increase the price again, but we're doubling the length of time that you get it for. And we've also restructured it, and we're going to be implementing some like we want to like the thing is, what we're trying to do now is when they leave, we want to still be adding value to them if they want it. So we offered a few of them some CFPs. But what we're trying to do there is basically streamline their process to becoming financially free, and it's happening with some of them. Like the one guy has consistently made 10K a month, and he was at 25 an hour when he first started. We had one guy that just shipped the tournament for $1 million. I know that's obviously luck box, but like just shipped the
Mhm.
tournament for like 800K on party like the day after he finished the academy. And he's like, if it wasn't for like you guys, like, because the way I describe it as well is like, if you're like 10 an hour, 25 an hour guy, you're gonna get a lot out of it. If you're a fire in the Zoom guy, you might get like one like less out of it, but the things you get out of it are more valuable to you than they would be to the 25 an hour guy.
Yeah.
And there's like loads of network opportunities in terms of like growing into like some of the live games, and it's just basically everything I would have wanted coming up into sort of like a service, if that makes sense. And like they kind of become part of the Ginge poker ecosystem, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I feel like we've seen another few courses pop up since then because of that, the way we've done that. So not necessarily copying, but like I feel like it's a good fit, because if you compare it to a CFP, you pay $2,500, say you make 100K in a year, you've lost $2,500. Whereas if you do a CFP, you get maybe, I don't know how many hours you get for a CFP, but you got a lot in this course. And then you've got to give away 30, 40, 50% of what you make. So it's actually cheaper as well.
Mm.
So yeah, so the price wise, it's more based on how much, because we've got to employ staff as well now, because we've got to employ more performance coaches. We've had to train them to do it to a level that we're happy with. We've got admins now, because there's a lot of stuff that we get these guys to do. I think basically we're going to focus over the next month making this, I like to think, the best course / academy in poker. And it's great because the only way we sell more courses is based on the reputation, on our reputations, and like the feedback that we get from everyone and the feedback that then goes out to everyone. I feel like, and I like that it's growing because of that and not because we're shouting about it too much. Obviously, I talk about it bits on stream, but I don't really talk about it because I'm busy doing it until it's ready to launch the next one type thing. But
no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Interested in your thoughts as like sort of like someone that's seeing it like sort of peripherally, what your impression of it is.
Yeah. So like, first of all, at CFPs, I've been obviously with BitB Cash, like I've been in there, like not access to their CFPs because I don't watch the coachings and stuff, but I'm in like their server, because I was with BitB and I've just stayed in historically. And where they've gone from to where they are now is like crazy. Like what they like if I was a cash game, like I don't make any money out of this or anything, so I'm not being biased. If I was a cash game player now, and if I started the journey and I was in the CFP, I think it would be close to impossible for me to not be like at least a 500 Zoom winner, if not higher. Like
Yeah.
I'd say close to impossible if you put the effort in, because the guys are all so good and they're all so active, and it's changed a lot from what it was, I think. So from CFPs, I feel like you have almost like because it goes on for longer too, you almost like guarantee, if you put the effort in, and they only accept people basically who have like some success as well to a certain level and pass criteria. So I say if you can get accepted into certain CFPs, I can only speak about BitB because they're the only one I've seen. But
I was like the original student for BitB before it became
I remember.
BitB.
I remember.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of said it, because where it's gone from to where it is now, I would say that you would be guaranteed to be a 500 Zoom winner if you're in that CFP, which is like, if you're and you get the information, like you said, when you give the information, you have that information for the rest of your life. So I'd say like if you left after a year or whatever, you'd be guaranteed to be like a winner for like almost the rest of your life, if that makes sense. So like, I definitely do think there is some stuff about CFPs, but at the same time, obviously I released a course as well, like a month ago or so. So I also believe courses have a lot of value too. Something about courses which I don't like, and people have probably seen this about me that already, but I don't like courses who post winnings of students on like at least on a small scale, because like I see courses who've sold, let's say 5,000 copies, and let's say their course costs like $1,000, and then like their student has a score for like $800, and they posted it, oh, this is what our site does for you to help you, or like even if it's like a 10K score, even if it's a 50K score, if you have 5,000 people who are a lot are losing or whatever, of course, if you have 5,000 losing players who buy your course, someone's going to have a 10,000 score.
1% is gonna make it, right?
Someone's going to be, no, even like, well, first of all, someone would make it anyway without you, just because they're going to do stuff themselves. But second of all, people will just get lucky. Like if I have 5,000 terrible poker players, someone's going to win something every Sunday. Do you know what I mean? So I've always been very hesitant. Like, I think people, I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever, like, people tweet and say, oh, like I've bought the course, like I've just won this tournament, thanks so much. And I try as hard as possible not to. I usually always PM them. I always usually PM them, be like, oh, that's great, kind of thing, like well done, and like send me the. And what I like to do is, what I would like to do moving forward at least, is only ever reply to somebody or retweet it out if I'm going to give them like a free review of the session, kind of thing. Like I feel like if I'm going to use that to market it, I want to like go over it and actually give you feedback that you played good. Because if I'm saying, look, my course is making you make 20K here, I want to make sure that you actually played well in that tournament. Otherwise, I'm kind of like, because anyone can just win. So I feel like there's so many courses out there right now, and I feel like the marketing at times can be pushed in a direction where it's not selling lies because the guy has won a tournament, but it's like, oh, if you join our site, you're going to make this. And a lot of people do sign up because of this. Like I saw somebody the other day, like, oh, wow, I see so many big scores here. Like I saw them reply to something. And I know that I could have like posted 50, 60 scores from the guys who've bought my course in the last month or so. And like in the first month of marketing is really big for these courses, but it just sits really uncomfortably for me for that stuff. So
yeah, it's interesting because like there's obviously a trade-off, right, between how much money you'll make from tweeting that and having that level of authenticity where you're not willing to do that, and then that keeping your brand. There's all sorts of things to consider. I think it's really tricky to get.
And it's
right.
hard. It's hard too. If you're in bed and you're on your phone, you wake up and someone's tweeted out. My first reaction is to reply like, "Oh, amazing! I'm happy for you," because I am happy for them. And then, but if you don't do it, they like think, "Oh, wow, like he's big timing me." So it's like it's so like you don't want to piss off the guy who's bought the course. but you don't want to like tweet out at the same time, but you want to tweet out because you're happy for him. So it's like it's such a weird, there's so many, I think people, I know like making courses and stuff, like you make good money and it's a great business. And like, I don't want to be like at all ungrateful here, but there's so much tricky stuff about like even streaming or being ambassador or whatever. There's so much like small things which people don't really realize, which are actually quite difficult to manage or handle in
Yeah,
certain
the
ways, you
ethics
know?
of them can get a bit blurry sometimes when, yeah, I see that.
Do you
And
remember
I guess,
Dale? Do you remember Dale Rocks You? Do you remember him? He was a Stars Pro from Scotland.
yeah, I think he lives in India or something, right? And
He has a big
oh,
YouTube channel now. Yeah, he has a big
does he?
YouTube channel. He has, yeah,
Oh,
I think his YouTube videos all get over 100K views. Like
sick.
I'm pretty sure he's popped off like massively. But he was a Stars Pro, and I was in Marbella with him. It was. Do you remember the Marbella UK IPTs? Do you remember these? Probably.
Yep.
Maybe this was just before your time. I'm not sure, but
I hadn't been there, but I know of them.
so it was World Cup 2016 or 2014. I can't remember which one. But England he was a famous Scottish poker player who loves to have a drink, and he was like a laddie lad, right? Like he would be a perfect GG ambassador now, I would say. But at the time he was signed by Stars because he was like a supernova elite, I think, and
Yep.
he had like a blog and stuff. So anyway, England get knocked out by Italy on penalties. I think Perlo Panenka's it against Joe Hart, and Dale Rockshoe starts to do like I think he starts doing like Klinsmans on the beach in Marbella in front of the England fans, in front of the big screen, something along those lines, right? And then he got his ambassadorship kind of taken off him, and
I've
like
heard bits about this.
he was just out there kind of being that's who he was. He was a Scottish guy, loved to root against the English, proper
Yeah.
Braveheart kind of mentality, which everyone loved. And the English guys weren't. I was not pissed off that this guy did that. Maybe at the
It's kind of
start,
happening. It's his thing,
maybe
isn't it?
maybe instinctively, I'm like, oh god, like fucking idiot doing this. But then afterwards, you find it funny. But yeah, even something like being himself to that degree, he got his ambassadorship taken off him. So like, it is very tricky to kind of manage.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess just the one last thing, kind of on the same topic, is about content. It's kind of interesting about you say that people the Ginge Poker Academy to me sounds very intense, like you said. It's very like you have to be there, this 90-minute video, this vlogging, all this stuff, and everyone seems all the testimonials I watched, all the guys seemed very intense. They all loved it. They all seemed very happy with it. But there's a lot of people who just passively want to watch content too, right? So like maybe like
Yeah.
a smaller training course where they can watch in their own time, not in a smaller time frame. Like I know people who've bought my course say they plan to watch it over 2 years. That's what some people have said. So I know you did sort of release a course, like I guess it was a week ago, right? With BBZ, right?
Yep.
So first of all, you can go into that, but second of all, are you planning to do like another one of these again for like, because I'm sure there's so many people who want to watch your stuff, but in like a passive way rather than like, let's say, a really
Yeah.
intense way.
Yeah. So I just caveat the academy does have videos that they get sort of lifetime access to once they've been in the
Okay.
academy.
Okay.
But there's just a bit more of this one needs to be this week, so then we can talk about that this week, and this is the thing that we'll be doing this week. So then we can be there for them through learning that. As for the BBZ stuff, so if I just take back to like 3 months ago, this has been undergoing. So BBZ contact me and say, we'd like you to make a course for us. And my initial thing, this was probably just after round one of my academy, and I'm still not quite sure where I fit in the poker world yet. I'm still kind of like finding my feet, as it were. And I feel like I'm a bit more solid now. I know where I'm going and what I'm doing, and I'm now just going to do it. Whereas before, I was still like feeling it out. I've got maybe GG, maybe I hold out for Stars, maybe I do this, maybe I do that. And at the time, I was like, well, that sounds like a reasonable idea. But I said, I've just started my academy. My plan is to do more academies. And what you basically said to me is that their ethos is, if you make sort of like what would be a $1,000 course and make a $1,000 course, basically what say Upswing would sell, but then sell it for $100 and then sell a lot of them. They see that as like the GTO way to do it, because they're like, well, people pirate it less, you'll sell more and people pirate it less, and they brand the numbers, and that seems to be the way that they like to play things. And I'm like, okay, my problem with that is, if you want $1,000 worth of course, when I'm selling this course for X, obviously it's a lot more hands-on, there's a lot more to it. I can't just give you that, because that is firstly, taking away from the people who've already done this course, and secondly, it's downgrading what I think is valuable. And BBZ then says to me, like, Jordan, he goes, well, don't worry too much about that. What I'd like you to do is package your sort of like, so for example, let's say I take 16 students, part of that, I'll give them all like they record a session and I'll record over it. And that's really useful for them. But I obviously get a lot of that content then because that's recorded and that's like footage. And I could done say 2 or 3 academies and I would have about to do more. He's like, well, we could package that up and that's really useful. And you're gonna get more of that. And I'm like, well, that makes sense. The same thing for stat reviews, providing them a HUD, which is something I do in the academy as well. So this course was getting fairly reasonably sized fairly quickly without too much course content, if that makes sense.
I think I saw. I think I saw like picture of it. There was a lot of content. It seemed like pre-flop and all this stuff.
There is. I mean, there is a lot there. I mean, if I've done 3 academies, say there could be 48 sweat reviews, and they just picked out say the best 10 sweat reviews and the best 10 stat reviews. So there's already 10 hours of footage before we've even talked about like me explaining how to play blind versus blind, or me explaining how I would play blind versus blind. Okay. And then so that was kind of like semi-agreed. That he would own the content I gave him, but it's fine because I'm making new content anyway. And I'm still moving forward with like running the next academies. And so I'm not like, and for me, it's like, do I do this? But I spoke to some people around me like, well, why don't you just do it yourself? Like my deal was I get 50% of the revenue that the course makes after we paid for ad spend. So for example, if we sold 20K worth and we spent 5K in ads, I get 7.5K. Would be per month. That was the arrangement, and he assured me that was like pretty good in the industry. I think I saw the Jane Ender stuff that he was getting like 33. Yeah. So if I was to do it on my own, I'd obviously have to cover my own costs, but then I would have to sell half as many courses in theory. So and I've definitely grown since then. I wasn't as big as I am now, say. So my reach would have been smaller.
And shout out to BBC also. They are very good at marketing. They're very good at growing. They're very good. They have lots of Twitchers and they have Apes twitching and Jargo's twitching. So they would probably be good for you in the future too, because they're growing at a very big rate. So like you don't know how big they're going to be as well in the future as well. So it's attractive for that from that point of view. Yeah.
Yes, and also BBZ is more tournaments, and I would be coming on as a cash game, and I have a warm audience. They've got like payment stuff process set up. Yeah. They've got like marketing already set up. So like the infrastructure. Infrastructure wise, big tick. Warm audience, big tick. Markets more than mine, big tick. So, and I just thought, well, this could be a big learning experience for me, see how this works. Maybe in the future I could do one that's a bit, somewhere in between. But then the biggest thing I was struggling with before I agreed was like trying to find a way to make a course valuable enough that it hits the requirement of $1,000 course, but not valuable enough that it takes away from my academy. And it was really tough, because if I could just do that, I would have done it. I would have just been like, no brainer, this is a yes. But when I'm like, the biggest thing that people I get told are drawn to me is that I tend to try and explain complicated things simply. Yeah. And if you explain something complicated simply, how do you explain it less simply? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's just like, this is how this thing works. Okay, yeah. I get that now. Like, what more value can I take away or add? And that's a really tricky kind of line that I was trying to cross.
Very.
And but like I had those trepidations, and he assured me everything would be fine. And then I go on to the so then I'm more talking to like what I don't know all the names off by heart, and obviously some of them are nicknames in Skype groups and stuff. And then, so I would say like the number 2 and number 3. So say Jordan's number 1 of the company, these guys like the number 2 and number 3, and they're more so Jordan's assured me everything's gonna be fine. I've signed a deal, blah blah. Now these guys are a bit more like, hey, realistically, this isn't quite a course. We're gonna need you to like do a course. And I'm a bit like, well, that's kind of more than like I wanted to give, but I this point feel more committed to the deal because I've sort of had an agreement with Jordan and blah blah. I don't want to waste people's time, and I've convinced myself to do it in my head now. So I'm more like, okay, let's do this.
And maybe they could have spent this time getting somebody else as well, right? So like you feel.
Yeah. So he basically the things he promised was he promised that I would be like the main cash game guy, at least for the foreseeable. They're not going to cannibalize this course. So whether this course runs for 6-10 months, that's my thing. And potentially, if it goes well, if they wanted to make an upgrade and the idea was that if there was feedback from the chat about they needed bits and bobs, because I was nervous, right? Like I want this course to be good. It's a reflection of me as much as it's a reflection on them. And so I've got a lot of assurances, and like I've convinced myself this is the right thing to do, and now so I'm kind of doing it. And then they push me for more and more and more stuff to build this course together. And there was bits where I'm like, okay, they've got that, they've got this. I guess I could give them a little bit of this. I guess I can give them that. And I wasn't holding back as much as I probably should have. To the point where my business partners were like, well, we're revamping the academy now, so we're redoing all the stuff and we're adding to that now. But at the time, it would have been like, are you giving that too much? I was like, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should pull that back. And it's really tough to find that balance, because I do think what I gave them was worth way more than $100. Like, I do think it would have been up there in the $500, $600, $700 range of what it would have been worth, maybe more. And that's just me trying to be like modest about that as well. I think the value I've given them was very, very high. And so and they asked me for videos that I hadn't even provided the academy. They were like, can you do us a video? And this one, to be fair, I thought was a good one, of how you played some of your hands, and then go on Pio and explain why you played it differently to Pio. And that was actually a really good video idea. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. I'll go do that. So it wasn't just all just them asking for more.
That sounds quite in depth. Yeah, that sounds quite in depth.
Oh yeah. The stuff that I was like, it was in-depth check raising, like blind versus blind, the core side, once I actually did it, was more than I was comfortable with, to be honest. Okay. But I'd already I've committed now, and there's this whole so the balance was like, are people going to buy this $100 course and then go, I don't need to join his academy? Or are people going to buy this $100 course and go, oh, that's really good, I should join his academy? Or will it be a blend of the two? Because if it's a blend of the two, that's fine anyway. But if it's going to be, oh, I don't need to join his academy, that's going to be the majority, then that's going to hurt me long term. Equally, I want to make the academy better. So set yourself
tricky.
a challenge.
It's tricky.
So we go through all this process. We get the marketing. So now they're like, okay, that's all good. We've got this together. They're bigging up the guys. It's going to be an absolute banger. We're really happy with it. We're going to release it on this date. Can you film 3 streams where instead of giving them to my editor, you give them to us, and then we're actually going to come in halfway. We'll do the editing down to the highlights, and we'll come in halfway and we'll actually advertise your course on one of YouTube videos. Yep, no problem. Film the 3 streams, I was quite busy at the time doing all the away footage. So I came out to do all that.
Was this public, by the way? Was this public that this was happening? Because I didn't know about it, but did the public know? Was this public knowledge that you were making a course?
Coming?
Yeah.
It wasn't unpublic, so I might mention it on stream, but I wasn't hiding it. But I wouldn't have been done any major announcements or anything like that. Okay. I might have mentioned something on one of I do the videos where I talk about how much money I've made each month. Yeah. I may have mentioned, all right, I've been working hard to release something, and that's coming. I might not have explicitly said what it was, but it would have been.
Okay.
One of my really good friends from home actually works for their BBZ hire marketing company, and a really good friend of mine from home works for that marketing company as an editor. And he's like, Ginge, I've been staring at your face all day. I've made this incredible advert. I can't wait for you to see it. And I'm like, yeah, we're launching at midnight your time. I'm like, I'm waiting up, and I'm like, okay, great. We've launched. I've done all the retweets. I'm happy. I'm in all the Discord groups. Go to sleep. 3.5 hours later, they take the course down. I just get messages from Jordan going, hey man, we need to talk. And I'm like, oh, okay. In my naive head, based on the messages that I've been getting, I'm thinking, wow, we're selling out and the site's gone down. And we've had to calm down for a few days. And I'm like, great, this is going to sell because I think they estimated estimated that it was going to sell 200 a month on average. So I assume maybe more in the first month, and then slowly dissipates and maybe. Yeah, so I don't know. So that's just a guess, obviously, but based on what they reckon. And I was like, oh, it's a cash game course, warm audience. Maybe they just, maybe the initial people that want to buy because it's me are going to hit it as well, and then maybe that'll die out a little bit. But maybe we just smash the servers here. This is sick. I want to. He's like, hey, we need to talk, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like half asleep, and I'm like, okay, I'm around now. And he goes, he calls me, and he's like, oh, do you want to wake up a bit? And I'm like, not really. I'm too curious now. I was like, no, I'm fine. And he goes, yeah, so we've had to take the course down, and we're not going to be releasing the course, and I'm going to pay you $5,000 for your time. And yeah, and I'm like, Okay. I'm in these kind of situations. I don't really like. I could already feel that there was no point sort of arguing, as it were, because it was very much decision made, and obviously it's the 11th hour to like it's past the 11th hour to make this decision. It must have been like a serious sort of decision,
Mm.
and I in like the midst of it, I was like, so can I just ask why? And he goes, yeah, I just wasn't like super happy with bits and bobs. And honestly, and this is not me trying to defend my course in any way whatsoever, I was like, it just felt like he was ducking and diving from the question, and I was just a bit like, well, I kind of just want to know, like, regardless of whether you release this course or not now, I need to know, like, what's wrong with it or why you couldn't release it, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, well, yeah. And I'm like, well, just which video? Like, just tell me what it is. And like, I'm trying to present it in a way that I'm not trying to find a solution here. I just kind of need to know this. And he goes, yeah, like the blind on blind video. And I'm like, first of all, like you had the blind on video as like one of the first videos that you got. You told me like this is me thinking after the fact. Like at the time, I was like, oh, okay, fine. He goes, so I'll send you the $5,000. Thank you for being so cool about it, and we'll just. And I was like, so what do you want me to say to people when they ask me? And he goes, oh, we're just going to hope this goes away. So we just don't talk about it for 4 days. Our reputation is important. Your reputation is important. We won't say anything bad about you. You don't say anything bad about us, and we'll go from there. And I was like, yeah, okay, no problem. And he goes, oh, well, thank you for being very cool about it. And obviously, I've tried to like find out more information since. And he said he spoke to like one of his like high stakes cash players and checked one of these videos, and he wasn't. Like, this is what he said on the phone. But then after the fact, after I've had like more time to like digest it and think about it, I was just like, something just doesn't add up here. Because if there's something like whenever I talk about poker, I'm never talking in like this is a fact and this is what you should do. I always say this is what I do and this is why I do it. And people are not necessarily going, people are not expecting to see Pyro Solver, this is the exact sizes and these 3 sizes and these 4 sizes and this is what you do here. I go, this is why I do it. This is what I think you should do it. And this is my logic. And people are paying to see that, not the solver side. If they want to go and run a solver, they can go do that. This is my, this is my bundle. This was my course. This is the Ginge Poker kind of like this. And I felt like they were trying to latch onto that when they wanted me to do the course. Because I was always very like, are you sure you want me? Like, I'm not necessarily this kind of like solvery kind of GTO equilibrium style guy. I'm much more of a, this is what I think and this is why I do this and this is my, you know what I mean? I'm kind of repeating
Yeah.
myself a little bit.
No,
But
I understand what you mean. I mean, I think first of all, my history of BBC has always been really good. Like we deal with a bunch of stuff because we have similar interests. We used to have a stake in, we both stake in partners. We've always been competitors, like very, very rival competitors, whether it be playing high stakes together, whether it be staking together, whether it be making courses together, like against each other, I mean. But we've always had a lot of mutual respect and mutual trust. And if I ever have something which I have, which would hurt his business, I've always told him about it. And if he's ever had anything which could hurt me, he's always told me too. So we've always had a lot of mutual respect. All of my dealings with him have always been very good. He's always, he comes across to me. The thing which sounds so surprising to me or hard to get my head around it is that he comes across to me from my dealings with him or seeing him speaking on Twitch or whatever, like a no bullshit kind of guy. Do you know what I mean? He's very like, he comes across as very straight to the point and says it. Of course, when you get onto like very complex business dealings like we're speaking about now, it is tougher to be as no bullshit. But from my experience working with him, or not working with him, working against him almost, he's always had this very no bullshit approach, I always thought. So that's what kind of stood out to me as being surprising, because you also feel like, I also feel like you have that same approach too, where you're not going to try to talk around things, you're going to just get to the point, you know. So to me it feels like you and Jordan would be like almost ideal business partners, because you feel very similar in that degree. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure if that was the problem. Like Jordan's more used to working with people who are, you know, a little bit more passive or whatever it may be, and you are just both so similar, and then it's harder to convey those thoughts. I'm not sure exactly. I wasn't there, of course. But yeah, it's sad that it hasn't worked out. Like I have a lot of respect for BBC, their company, and obviously I have a lot of respect for you too. So like a lot of people often think that there's animosity between these kind of people. But for me, I'm like a fan of Ape Styles. Like I write to Ape Styles all the time. I'm a fan of Jordan. Like I'm a fan of the Upswing guys, like Jason McConnell, the cash game guy for Upswing.
yeah,
He's like
yeah.
one of my closest friends. You know, like in poker, he's probably top 2 friend. It's like in almost every company, I'm close to all the guys. Like I like them, I'm fans of them. So I don't like a lot of people may think that I like to see these things crash and burn down, but for me, it's like I'm sad that your course didn't work out with them. I'm not trying to. I don't. I'm not going to have a thumbnail here like BBZ reveals. Sorry, Ginge reveals BBZ aggressiveness. I'm not trying. I'm never going to do something like that, or like have a thumbnail of you and Jordan clashing heads, because I want you guys to have been successful. So for me, it's sad that this course has not come out. It's not come out.
For me, it's not that it's happy or sad, because I was already slightly conflicted going into the deal. So it's almost like it made my decision for me. But if anything, I just came out of it with confusion, because any way I kind of look at it in my head, it's like if there was something wrong with the course, we could have fixed it. And that's the one thing that just doesn't sit right. If you just pull the course for a week, I was making videos daily for them. Like any video that they had a problem with, I could have fixed. And that for me is the one thing that I just can't get over. It's like,
but you still have the content. You have the content, right? Like you can.
They signed back rights to the content to me, so they can't use it anymore, and they paid me $5,000 compensation.
Okay, so I mean, again, I'm not trying to take their side for sure. Of course, I'm not. But if you have I know you spent a lot of time on it, and they could have been telling you stuff earlier. But if you have all the content and they've paid you some compensation, it's not like they've just taken the content, paid you 5K, and told you to fuck off.
I don't feel hard done by. I absolutely don't feel hard done by. I'm almost like, I almost feel like it's a blessing in disguise. It's like, okay, this can't ever take away from my academy. I can make it potentially better. I can make it, maybe sell something like this myself in the future. I don't see any negatives here other than the confusion that I was like, what happened?
So I'm sure there's people who want. I'm sure there's people probably who did buy it, right? Like,
they got refunds.
They got refunds. But are you not going to try to resell it now to these people? Like, because I assume that makes sense, right? That's free money. These people want it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought to do that. I feel like my focus is my academy. I want to basically get that in a place where it's like a well-oiled machine, and I'm pretty close to getting that right. I want to do the footage with GG, and I think what I'll maybe do is people sign up to GG through me. I don't necessarily want to plug this on your podcast, but like maybe I'll do something where they get some of this content.
No, that's fine.
If they're using my like affiliate stuff.
No, that seems clever. That seems like a smart way to do it. Yeah, that's smart. Yeah.
So and I might, maybe I'll do some sort of exclusive content that people get for that kind of stuff, and this.
I think Joingram did the same. I think for Jay Nandez's PLO, right? I think it's
got X amount of the sales. Whereas I won't necessarily sell it to these people. I'll be like, if you play on GG for me, you get the videos.
No, I think I meant it for Jay Nandez's course. I believe Joe Ingram did. If you signed up through him, you got bonus videos from him playing PLO. So you got like additional thing. I think this is good. Like, I feel like in terms of affiliation and stuff, like adding some extra incentive and adding some extra value is great. Like, I think that stuff is really good. So it's nice. It's nice that you have the business mind as well. It feels like you're always thinking about how to do it like that, and to also benefit the GG, because it's going to bring players to GG too, right? Like, that's a good way of being an ambassador like that.
That's like the idea, right? All I'm trying to do is hashtag make poker great again.
Yeah. Anyway, gonna wrap this up now. But any last things that we didn't speak about that you wanted to air or done?
No, I think we pretty much touched on everything. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
So when's part 3 going to be? When are we going to do part 3?
I guess I don't know. Like we're both making some waves, right? So when the next wave lands, we can chat about that again.
So
Ronaldo?
Yeah. When I beat Ronaldo, when I beat Grealish in the penalty shootout, yeah. So where can
that'd be sick for poker. Me, you, and some we'll pick 2 random ambassadors from the world.
A Geordie, Andy Carroll and Jack Grealish.
Two Geordie,
yeah.
And Grealish.
Yeah, I like it. It sounds good. So I'm sure people are already following you, but where do you like people to be pushed
YouTube.
To your YouTube? Always YouTube.
Poker. If they want to talk to me, like, I've got links to all the Discord stuff on the YouTube videos. But yeah, please subscribe to YouTube. That's the best thing for me.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend it. I think I don't want to say I've watched every one, but I must have watched 90+% of your videos. They're definitely good entertainment and for sure education for lots of people too. So yeah, gonna end this now. Go on.
Just one doing now is I'm just backlogging it all. So then as soon as like April hits, Ginge
Smash.
Poker daily content for the rest of time.
Oh, really? That's good.
Yeah,
That's
the
good.
plan.
That's nice. All right, well, go check out Ginge, subscribe. There's a lot of videos you can catch up on. And April 1st, he says, hopefully this is not an April Fool's, and we're expecting April's daily videos. But yeah, I would go recommend to check it out. And yeah, thanks again, Ginge, for coming. And
Yes.
see you in wave 3.
All right.
All right,
Peace.
ciao, ciao,
Bye.
bye.